Starfield announcing that it will be capped at 30 FPS on console has started an internet-wide debate about 30 FPS versus 60 FPS. Many people are weighing in, unhappy fans expressing their disappointment. We've got bloggers and YouTubers trying to spin this as a positive. There are console tribalists wishing they didn't have so many pesky tweets about 30 FPS that make them look like hypocrites. Everybody's weighing in on the subject. I personally feel like we are getting a lot of hand-waving, a lot of dishonesty, and even some mixed messaging. I want to look at what Todd Howard said. I want to look at what Phil Spencer said, as well as Digital Foundry, a dev from God of War weighed in. I want to ask some questions because I'm genuinely confused about some of the things that are being talked about. Now, I put all the good information right here at the beginning of the video, so you don't have to go looking for it. It's a longer video because it's a live stream, but I put a monologue here at the beginning. They're getting a little bit longer, and this one's not very short because there is so much to come over, and I have a lot of questions to ask. Make sure you hit subscribe and the bell button so you don't miss my content. So the truth about Starfield being capped at 30 FPS on console has turned into a battleground in the gaming world. Some are claiming it is unacceptable. Others are saying, well, if you want really, really good performance, then just play on PC. Even devs from other companies and Digital Foundry are weighing in on why a game of this size seemingly has no choice but to cap frames. First, I want to look at what everybody has said. Both Todd Howard and Phil Spencer have commented on this, and to be honest, I think it feels a little bit awkward the way they're having to frame this. I'm also not sure if what they're saying lines up with what other people are saying about the creation engine or Starfield and what it's attempting to do as a game. Especially in light of the Phil Spencer kind of funny interview, many people were expecting this to be right on the front end within the Starfield Direct. Now, I went back and I watched the question about, hey, are we going to hear about 60 FPS? And to be fair, Phil Spencer was asked the question, will we get clarity about this summer? Now, many assumed he was referring to the Starfield Direct since they had been talking about the showcase, since they had been talking about, hey, we finally get to do all these things in the summer. But the interview did not specifically ask, hey, are they going to mention this in Starfield Direct? So I won't say that Phil lied, but the question certainly set expectations that we would hear about it in the Starfield Direct, and we didn't, and I think that set the stage for disappointment and anger about this to be even higher, because it kind of feels like they tried to hide it. The second thing I want to do is just ask some questions. I feel there's some contradictions, there's some mixed messaging, there are things that I don't think make any sense in light of all the places that this game is landing. I've even seen questions about the development timeline. I have questions about the development timeline. This game has been in development for a very, very long time. The last thing I want to address is the flip-flopping, the narrative flip-flopping that we have seen. Many people have firmly planted themselves in a corner, claiming that 30 FPS just doesn't matter, which is hilarious in light of everything said this generation. All the commentary before the PlayStation 5 and the Series X launched was that the PlayStation 5 was going to be so much weaker and struggle to hit 60 FPS, and that the Xbox was going to be choosing between 60 and 120. And now, after all of that, after years and months of decrying 30 FPS as unacceptable, now it suddenly is. And there's simply many of them, I think, committing the fallacy of special pleading, claiming that Starfield is some special exception, right? A game that really nobody's played yet. We're assuming that this game deserves exceptions to be made. And at some level, I think you could make exceptions for a game of this scope and size. But I want to start with what was said. And this gets confusing because some of what Todd Howard's remarks are being interpreted differently, okay? Many people are taking these quotations, and some people are saying, oh, no, he's talking about console. Other people are saying, oh, no, he's talking about PC. So what did he say? Quote, always these huge open worlds, fully dynamic, hyper detail, where anything can happen. He's saying that's how their games, they like to make them that way. He says, and we do want to do that. He says it's 4K on the X, it's 1440 on the S. We do lock it at 30 because we want that fidelity. We want all that stuff. We don't want to sacrifice any of it. Keep in mind, you really need to listen to what he's saying, because a lot of other people are weighing in on Starfield being capped at 30 FPS, and they're not talking about fidelity. They're not talking about graphics and how beautiful the game looks. And I'll readily admit, the game looks good. I was sort of stunned during the Starfield Direct. I said it looked like a completely different game. But this section about fidelity will come back up when I ask my questions in a moment. Now, without skipping a beat, Todd goes on to say, fortunately in this one, we got it running great. It's often running way above that. Sometimes it's 60. But on the consoles, we do lock it because we prefer the consistency where you're not even thinking about it. Many people are taking this one of two different ways. I took this statement as saying this one, this game, this build, this world, right? In context, he's talking about these worlds that have all this freedom and all these things you can do, and that if that's all doing all that, they really want to protect that fidelity. And he says, fortunately in this one, this game, this world, he says, we've got it running great, and that oftentimes it's running above 30. Sometimes it is 60. I took it as him saying, like, we can get it there on console sometimes, but we want consistency, so we capped it. Now, other people took this second portion of his statement, and they think he's talking about PC, which is causing concern. People are saying, well, how strong's my PC going to need to be to hit 60 FPS? And then PC Gamer weighed in about the actual specifications and the system requirements. They said Starfield's PC system requirements are a bit weird. So we're waiting to see Bethesda revise the specs listed on Steam, but they also aren't extraordinarily demanding for a new game. It's a little awkward, some of the things that are required on the system requirements. We'll talk about that in a moment with respect to like how many people actually have a rig even within the strength of the recommended specs, how close the recommended specs are to the power of the Series X. We'll talk about that all in a moment. Then they looked at the recommended specs and they concluded the following. It is also not clear that those recommended specs will get you 60 FPS at 1440. That would be nice. Starfield has some impressive vistas, but it's no marvel of rendering. So I'd hope we're not struggling too hard to see those glassy-eyed NPCs at 60 FPS. They also don't know if it's going to support DLSS or AMD FSR. They're saying that would help, okay? Now, the reason I put this here after Todd Howard's remarks is because it touches on my questions about fidelity and their choices. PC Gamer saying, listen, we're not seeing any render marvels here. We don't really quite understand the strength of a PC rig that will be required to hit 1440 60. Again, the recommended specs are within the hemisphere of the strength of the Series X, and the Series X apparently can't do 60 FPS. It's not as simple as just dropping the resolution. We're being told by people that are way smarter than me, because I was like, just give me 1440, and people are like, it's not that simple because of the way the creation engine works, because of the way Starfield works. We'll touch on that in just a second. Then Phil Spencer had this to say, and I think this is one of the more interesting pieces of commentary about this, right? He says, we obviously have games that are running at 4K 60 on the platform. It's not a platform issue. It's a creative decision. I trust the decisions Bethesda Game Studios makes, and I trust what I'm playing. So Phil Spencer's kind of having to defend their hardware, okay? And first, the number of 4K 60 games on their platform is almost entirely made up of older, non-next-gen games. I'm just calling a spade here. You want to start peacocking about 4K 60 on the Xbox Series X or the number of 120 FPS games on the Series S. These are always kind of fudged numbers because they're older titles. They're not next-gen games. Nobody bought a next-gen console so they could play old games and be like, well, I'm getting 4K 60, okay? And that I have a question about this later, but also Phil Spencer is stressing that this was a creative decision. It's not a platform problem. It's not the hardware's fault. So the awkwardness here is that he's having to defend the platform against criticism while also supporting Bethesda's decision. He concludes by saying he doesn't want to turn games into a mathematical exercise. Nothing needs to just be an Excel spreadsheet, and he says the following. I think Starfield is going to be a great game, and I love the reception today, and I don't want to force specs on every game before they start. This statement will also be part of some of my questions in that second segment. Last but not least, Matt Booty, this is just from Microsoft. I've got other commentary from Digital Foundry as well as a God of War dev. But From Microsoft and Bethesda, Matt Booty said the following about bug count, and this one is making the rounds. We have an awful lot of people internally playing Starfield. Working with Todd and the team, I see bug counts, and just by the numbers, if it shipped today, this would have the fewest bugs of any Bethesda game ever shipped with. So, tall claims from Matt Booty. Write that one down because he's saying this has the least amount of bugs of any Bethesda game out there. They have tons of people working on this game. According to, I think Phil Spencer said, like, everybody is working on it. There's another quote here from Games Radar that I want to give you guys. Truth be told, when the acquisition closed, the game had a significantly earlier ship date than we're actually launching. This is coming from Phil Spencer. He said, so sitting down with Todd Howard and the team and explaining that we want to give the team time, I think Matt Booty says every QA person in our entire company is playing Starfield right now, looking at bug counts and looking at quality and where we are. So this is a huge priority for them. This lines up with Phil Spencer's commentary in the Kind of Funny interview that they were able to integrate and help Bethesda earlier with Starfield. And the interesting thing here is it seems Bethesda thought things were ready to go and Xbox thought differently, which really makes me wish Xbox would have stepped in with Redfall and paid attention to what was going on. This is probably a good explanation as to why Todd Howard said the date was set in ink. And then they went to Bethesda and said, listen, I don't think that date should be set in ink. We don't think this game is ready. Now, before we move on to my questions, because I have a lot of questions about some of these things that are being said to me about why I should be accepting 30 FPS. Digital Foundry has been weighing in on this ahead of the game's release. And it's interesting, the sudden trustworthiness of Digital Foundry from people who typically dismiss Digital Foundry simply because their breakdowns have consistently shown the Series S to be incredibly weak. Xbox fans don't seem to like that, so I often find people claiming that Digital Foundry is not trustworthy or accusing them of being Sony ponies, which is ridiculous and laughable. But now all of a sudden Digital Foundry is your knight in shining armor. John Linneman's reaction to the announcement was as follows. This is what he tweeted. He said, given the scope, this is perfectly acceptable. I think if they can smooth it out and deliver a steady 30, that would be just fine. Now, he also pointed out that the sandwich collecting is one of the aspects of the games that's affecting the FPS. Basically, persistent tracking of arbitrary items in the world is part of the challenge that this game is facing, okay? Something to keep in mind that John said during the Direct. So while he was actively watching the gameplay footage, he said, Starfield's looking great, but I'm surprised at the unstable frame rate, though I suppose that suggests it's real. This is a tad concerning considering the gameplay and the video uploaded were at 30 FPS, and we are once again on the doorstep of the game launching, and we're seeing performance problems. And we're not seeing performance problems like pop-in or shader issues. Maybe those are in here. I've not combed over this video that closely. That's not really what I do. There are plenty of channels that do that. I'll wait and see if that happens. But we're seeing frame struggles at 30 FPS. That's significant, okay? And before anybody interprets John Linneman's comments as defending Starfield at 30 FPS, it's not that simple. You can't put him in a box and say, oh yeah, he fully supports it being 30 FPS. He said this in reply to somebody. He says, hey, more frames are always preferable, but with what they're trying to achieve, this is just how it had to be, okay? So his defense is more technical, okay? He's not saying, oh yeah, man, 30 FPS is totally fine. 30 FPS is my jam. He's saying, in light of what they're trying to do, this just seems like what they had to do. It's a technical necessity. He isn't saying... There's two ways to defend something. You could defend it like all these people on Twitter who are hand-waving, pretending they didn't say what they said 2 months ago and are basically hypocrites and liars. John Linneman's not doing that. He's saying, from a technical perspective, I get what they're doing. Like, it's defensible from a technical perspective, but that's not necessarily what we're talking about. Just knowing the technical reasons behind really long queue times when a game launches, does that make the queue more enjoyable for you? Knowing why a game is struggling to hit 60 FPS or why it has to be capped at 30 FPS, does that make it more enjoyable? If somebody breaks it down technically, why Redfall runs like garbage, does it it make it more fun? Are you going to play more hours of Redfall? Even when I gave people a technical explanation for why Tears of the Kingdom runs at 30 FPS because the weakness of the Switch, does that make it more enjoyable? Even I had to stop playing Zelda because I started playing other games at 60, and going back and forth gives my brain whiplash. I enjoyed it when it first launched because I hadn't played video games in a while. We had been going through a bit of a drought, and it was way more tolerable in a vacuum. But the minute it started getting compared to other games, just because I understood technically why Tears of the Kingdom was running at 30 didn't make it more enjoyable, and it certainly didn't make my eyeballs think any differently about it. The last thing we need to take a look at, okay? The last thing we need to take a look at is a God of War dev responded to the notion that the game was unfinished from Dreamcast guy, okay? I've seen clips. I genuinely do not understand the strong negative bent that he has against Starfield, okay? He was saying it looked like Fallout. He was kind of going off on a tangent about how all the planets are going to be empty. I don't get why he's being that negative about it. I've continually defended Starfield's choice to have lots of planets. I've defended their choice to have empty planets. I think this is totally fine. It makes sense within the genre of the game. I've even defended the NPCs. I've said, listen, in a game of this size, look at the dialogue count. There's going to be a ton of automation. And when you lean on automation for your NPCs, your dialogue, and all those amazing RPG experiences, you're not going to have NPCs that look photorealistic. You're not going to have NPCs that look like things we've seen in God of War Ragnarok or even Forbidden West. They're different games with different aims, okay? But I still don't understand some of the negativity. Here's the tweet, all right? Nice and big so nobody, thinks I'm not quoting him properly, all right? As usual, a tweet from a dev, I think, is being used as like a weapon. But you have to really read what he says here. He says, game dev here, big fan by the way, wanted to clarify it's not a sign of an unfinished game. It's a choice. 60 FPS on this scale would be a large hit to the visual fidelity. There's that word again, fidelity. My guess is they want to go for a seamless look and less pop-in. And of course, you're right to dislike the choice. Now, I can't tell if that's a typo. I don't know if he's saying, hey, you are right to dislike the choice, or is he saying you have a right to dislike the choice? Not really sure. It's not written like you have a right. He's been like, yeah, you're right to dislike that choice. Like, hey, if you want FPS, they made a choice and he ain't getting it, okay? He's clarifying that the game isn't finished. He's not saying that the choice is good. He's saying you have every right to dislike this, okay? So just for clarification, another person coming out with expertise is not saying this is totally fine. He's saying this is not an indication that the game is unfinished. I've never indicated that I think the game is unfinished. I think it's an engine level problem, but let's get to my questions, all right? We're probably about halfway through the monologue. It's time for my questions because I really think there is some inconsistencies. There's some things that I don't think make any sense. So my first question with respect to what Todd Howard said. He seems to be indicating that they capped it at 30 FPS because they didn't want to sacrifice fidelity. And at one level, this makes sense. If you choose a 4K ray tracing mode, you're going to get 30 FPS. When you choose that, that's choosing fidelity. That's typically referred to as quality mode. I almost always pick performance mode. So I understand what he's saying. We wanted to maintain fidelity, so we capped things at 30. I'm like, okay, cool. I don't really like being forced to be at a 4K 30, I don't have any games on my PS5 that do that. They give me 2, 3, 4, and 5 options sometimes of different versions of performance. So my question with what he's saying, though, is what about the Series S? The console has a slightly slower CPU than the Series X. It's not a 12 teraflops. Its clocks are slower. It has slower, clock speed. And according to John Linneman, he thinks that this is a CPU issue, okay? They're lowering the resolution for the Series S, so you're willing to sacrifice fidelity there. Clearly, lowering resolution helps with something. I'm not saying it's the be-all, end-all solution here, but you were willing to sacrifice fidelity for the Series S, which, to me, is a contradiction of what he said. Oh, we don't want to sacrifice fidelity. Well, unless it's on the Series S. Well, okay, could you have sacrificed some fidelity more than resolution? What about draw distance? What about shading, lighting? What about all those things that the PC player can turn off or turn down, okay? If John Linneman is correct and it's a CPU issue, couldn't they have done things in the options to give me a performance choice to say, hey, turn a bunch of that stuff off, take that load off the CPU so that I can get 60 FPS? It clearly wasn't a priority. That's their choice, but I'm welcome, I think, and anybody's welcome to question that choice. Given that the Series S has a weaker CPU as well as less memory, I'll be very interested to see if Starfield runs as smooth on the Series S as Todd Howard says it's running. And this all leads to my second question. If you're so dead set on maintaining fidelity, what about PC? Will PC be locked at 4K? Will they have to deal with whatever frames per second they get on their rig? Sorry, we don't want to sacrifice fidelity. You have to play the game at 4K. That's highly unlikely. Will PC be able to turn down textures, shadows, lighting? What about draw distance? All of those things lead to better performance when you turn them down on a mid-level rig. You can get a little bit more by turning those things down or sometimes turning them off. If you let PC users tweak their experience and tone things down, why not let the Series X do that? Oh no, it's Alex put out a video just this morning about that. He's like, why don't you let people on the Series X tweak their experience? It's basically a computer. And he's right. It's running on the same software at some level. Since you're a first-party studio, why did the console not get that level of control and choice? And given the oddity around the PC requirements, according to PC Gamer, is this game going to struggle to hit and maintain 30 FPS on PCs? Steam reports indicate that the majority of PC users have actually got weaker GPUs than the Series X. The Series X has been compared to like a 2070 Super, okay? If you look at Steam reports, the average GPU in circulation that makes up the majority of Steam users is weaker than that. It stands to reason that if they have a GPU that's weaker than the Series X, the other pieces of hardware in that CPU, in that computer, are likely weaker as well, more in the mid to low end. Are most PC users going to be staring down the barrel of a 30 FPS game or a game that struggles to maintain solid frame rate? Somebody might say, well, people with those weaker rigs, weaker systems, and weaker GPUs, well, they're accustomed to not getting 60 FPS. You might be right. They might overlook this, but what if it even struggles to hit 30 since it struggled to hit 30 in the trailer? Everyone keeps talking about the consoles, but what about PC? If it runs poorly on PC, if it struggles to maintain 30 or it can't hit 60 consistently, then the Series X is immaterial at that point. It's just another game that got scoped too high, scoped too broad, and it can't deliver solid base level performance. And I don't think the PC user base will tolerate it. Everybody thinks the PC user base will be just fine with weak performance because the modders will fix it. I think we've come a long way from that attitude. If a game launches with bad performance, look at the Steam reviews, look how fast that community turns on a game. I don't think Starfield will fare any better. The next question I have is for Phil Spencer. He says this was a creative decision. This is not a platform problem. Okay, well, what about all your studios, Phil? You guys have a lot of studios. What about all those great projects, all those games that we saw during the Xbox Game Showcase? Are they allowed to deprioritize something from your own marketing? Is the Series X destined to be a next-gen 30 FPS box? How many next-gen first-party titles right now hit 60 FPS other than Forza? I asked that question very carefully. How many next-gen first-party titles hit 60 FPS other than Forza? Halo Infinite and Hi-Fi Rush aren't first-party. Even Flight Sim's not doing this. So where are we headed with this box? What can we expect? What else is there now, okay? The ratio's not very good with Redfall and Starfield coming in at 30 FPS at launch. What about Fable? What about Avowed? What about Hellblade 2? Will any of these games show off the power of the Series X? Or will they be allowed to make creative decisions and cap frames to old-gen frame rates? As an owner of the Series X and a huge fan of Hellblade, I'm highly anticipating Starfield as well. I would like to know why I bought this machine. This Series X that seemingly slogan is, if you want performance, go play on PC. The last question I have is about the dev cycle of Starfield, all right? The hardware requirements we're seeing and the dev cycle, I don't think add up. I think this is confusing. According to Todd Howard, Starfield has been in active development since the release of Fallout in 2015. The recommended video card is a 2080, which launched in 2018. That's 3 years into active development of this game. Many have compared the Series X to a 2070 Super, and all the benchmark comparisons I found this morning put the 2080 and the 2070 Super very close together. This means a couple of things. First, this card that they're telling you is stronger than most of the cards in the market according to Steam reports. That's the recommended card they're telling people to use. So most PCs fall below the recommended specs, and even the recommended specs may struggle then to get 30 FPS since the Series X is capped, and the Series X and the recommended video card are in similar hemispheres. Now, the real question that I have is, why did a game that started development 3 years prior to the launch of the 2080 surpass its strength to the point that it can't maintain 30 FPS? Why would you develop a game that reached beyond the power of the Series X? Those weren't even in circulation at the time Starfield started development. You likely didn't have Xbox Series X dev kits at your disposal back when this game started development. Todd Howard used the phrase active development. Even if in 2015 and 2016 they were doing storyboarding, they were doing pre-production, that means 2017 is still prior to the video cards launching, as well as the Series X dev kits distribution. But let's just say they did have the Series X dev kits. That doesn't make it any better. It means they knowingly allowed the scope of this game to reach beyond what the console that's coming, the next-gen console, and the newest video cards could do. These were brand new video cards at the time, in the middle of this game's dev cycle. So, this is either significant scope creep or the engine itself. Now, I get it. Somebody might push back and say, listen, this is a creative decision. You can pick up anything, the size, the scope of the planets, the freedom. Okay, sure. But they're still doing loading screens in this game. Apparently, takeoff, landing, and even entering buildings has loading screens. Given all these questions and seeming contradictions, I just don't accept all these preemptive defenses for this game. You can make it make sense technically, but that still is a choice. They chose to do this with the game. You chose to deliver a game in 2023 with loading screens and capped 30 FPS, which leads to my last section. The flip-flopping, the false narratives, and the false equivalencies. The narrative shifting. Just a few months ago, we saw outcry about Redfall at 30 FPS. Prior to that, it was Gotham Knights. Both of these games received ridicule and criticism for launching a 30 FPS game on next-gen only platforms. And we are now told that, well, 30 FPS is fine. We're told that 30 FPS is a buzzword, whatever that means. We even had people claiming that Starfield would be 60 FPS based on the release date announcement trailer back in March. Do you remember that? Do you remember in March when the Starfield trailer came out? It was an announcement trailer about their release date. And we had these PR spin doctors saying, ooh, Starfield at 60 FPS. The trailers have been 30 FPS up to now. It will have a performance mode. These people are PR spin doctors. The same people did this are the same ones that told you Redfall was great. They're the same ones that circulated a Redfall montage. And then, when the truth came out, they all turned on Redfall. They said, well, delay it. 30 FPS is unacceptable. Those same people claimed that Starfield would have performance modes. They claimed the trailer proved 60 FPS would happen from mere seconds of gameplay or simulated gameplay at 60 FPS. I had people come into my stream and they said, oh, it's going to be at 60 FPS, so-and-so said so. And I said, hang on a minute. This is just a trailer. This isn't the game. This isn't a formal announcement about the game's performance. Now that the truth has come out, the goalposts don't just shift, they're changing stadiums. That now all of a sudden, instead of dismissing Digital Foundry because you don't like what they say about your plastic box, now Digital Foundry is your knight in shining armor. All the marketing for Series X? Oh, well, let's just apply revisionist history or do whataboutisms, right? PS5 has 8K on the box, and that apparently is relevant to Starfield being capped at 30 FPS. between the spin and the lies about Redfall and the flip-flopping on that game to now having hand-waving and talking point astroturfing and logical backflipping, I don't know how any of you can take these people seriously. Some of these people and outlets are so see-through. Accepting that Starfield went beyond what was able to run stable 60 at a technical level, that's one thing. I think you can have an intellectual acceptance of the technicalities behind this. That's not the same as completely changing the narrative, going back on previous statements about 30 FPS, acting like folks expecting 60 FPS should just play on PC. This is entirely different. It's misleading. You're bordering on lying. Some of these people are so see-through, I'm even surprised they try to keep up the facade. It must be exhausting being so dishonest all the time. Call a spade a spade. This is another next-gen title, a highly anticipated flagship for the Xbox that's missing the mark on performance. It's okay to admit that. That's just being an honest person. The hand-waving and even the finger-pointing at the Final Fantasy XVI demo or Zelda is pathetic. Guess what? If Final Fantasy XVI launches and it has FPS problems, I'm going to criticize that. Do you want to know why? They did interviews. They marketed the game as squeezing all the power it could out of the PS5, as showing off the true power of the PS5. That's if the demo is representative of the final product. If the final product has those FPS issues, I will criticize that. Why? Because revisionist history and defending poor performance doesn't interest me. I'm interested in the truth, which is why I asked so many questions today. Because as far as I'm concerned, we don't really know the truth about Starfield at 30 FPS, at least not yet. Right now, it's a lot of speculation, theory crafting, narrative shifting, but fear not, the game is almost here, and when Starfield releases, the proof, as they say, will be in the pudding. So let me give you my thoughts and my conclusions. The messaging about Starfield and 30 FPS is clearly a bit murky right now. Todd is saying it's about fidelity. Phil is defending the hardware, basically, and experts are pointing to the engine. They're pointing to CPU power. One thing is for sure, much like all the narratives before and after the announcement, everyone's going to shift what they say once the game launches and is truly tested. The second thing I want to say is, the number of questions I offered in this video are honestly just the tip of the iceberg. The lightning rod nature of this game is just such a mixed bag. The game is huge. It's ambitious. It has the potential to be another Skyrim moment for Bethesda, but performance is a bigger focus today than it used to be for games of this size. Here's my conclusion. Starfield appears to offer such an amazing experience that two things are happening. First, on a personal level, I'm willing to try to get this thing to 60 FPS on a PC. I may even buy some upgrades because the game looks that good. It's really that appealing. The second thing that's happening, because of the size, the scope, and the ambition of this game, folks are breaking their backs to defend 30 FPS. So yes, I'm still very interested in this game. They truly seem to reach for the stars. But much like the history of having high aspirations and lofty goals, they may have flown too close to the sun. And that is the show open. That is the opening monologue. You guys are the absolute best. What a fantastic turnout. I hope that opening monologue came across the way I wanted it to come across. This is about fact-finding, truth, getting to the heart of the matter. I'm not going to sit here, lambaste the game. I'm not going to sit here and bash Xbox. I want to know the explanation. I want answers. I want to know what the actual reasoning is. Is it fidelity? Is it CPU? How much fidelity downgrading are you going to allow on the PC? Why are you letting the Series S downgrade its fidelity? These are questions that deserve to be answered, and that's why I decided to take that approach. Rather than go on a bashing session, I'd rather just posture and say, what's going on? What are you going to let people on PC turn all these things off? If that's the case, why won't you let them turn off on the console with the modding? Are you going to let people push out mods that turn all these things off so that even on my console I could get a modded version of the game that turns all these things off to give me 60 FPS? These are the things that I would like to know. Let's start off the day right. There's 1,100 people here. Hit that member goal. Look at this member goal. It's sitting over here waiting for you guys to hit it. Every 25, I gift 5. Let me thank some people that did some gifting and some stuff in the show open. I can actually go back and read these now. They did this new thing on YouTube. A 5 spot from Everest. Less bugs in a Bethesda game is like saying less disease in a plague. Super googly with 158 Hong Kong currency, I believe. Can't wait to play Starfield on my RTX 4090. The Series X is a good system for throwing it into the car when I go visit a friend to play Street Fighter 6 or Diablo 4 couch co-op. That is so not the endorsement that they wanted for that next-gen box. Bulls for Life with 7 months says, I agree with Lono on the fidelity. Hence, I think it's why they are going to push Series S with 1 terabyte. That has nothing to do with fidelity. That has nothing to do with performance. That's storage. Leal Duck was 7 months in a VIP. Bought into the new consoles thinking we finally get 4K 60 in all the games. Sadly, seems not quite there. I wonder if dropping old gen will help push the direction. I mean, this is dropped old gen. You can't play Starfield on old gen. They did drop it. What do you mean? Big O with 18 months. I was super excited for Starfield after watching the Direct, and then when I heard it was 30 FPS, I was deflated. I'll play it, but I won't be happy. Severin Evans with a $2 super chat tip says, see you in Starfield. Good luck to you, Lono. Thank you, Severin Evans. Raptor with 3 months. It's a VIP. Just buy a PC is the new just get good or just build it forehead. Loving the content, Lono. Glad I could drive the member count up. Thank you, Raptor, for all your generosity and gifting. Xerox with 12 months, and it's a VIP. He says, 12 months of being a member. Congrats on the long road, Lono, and many more years to come. So, bought some Into the AMTs with code Lono. Thank you for using my code over there at Into the AM. Their sale's going for 1 or 2 more days, and you can stack my code on top of their sale. Use code Lono or go to intotheam.com/Lono. Thank you, Xerox. A gifted member from DK Bager. This guy's always poking the number. Who else wants to help him out? Push this number up. Thank you very much. Transmissions from a spaceboat with 18 months of membership. Proof is in the pudding. How many pudding cups can I keep in my ship? Hilarious. Louis Castillo. I've been saying it since Gotham Knights came out. 30 FPS on console will become the norm yet again. I don't believe that. The sooner we come to grips with that, the better. I don't believe that. I don't think that's demonstrable in the market. I don't. Gotham Knights ran like crap everywhere. Terrible example. Terrible example. Starfield looks like it's going to struggle to run well on PCs. The mid-lane PCs are going to struggle with this. You're using examples of games that don't run well. Like, Gotham Knights didn't run well. Plague Tale didn't run well. Every game that we have, every first-party game we have for PS5 is doing this. It's hitting 60. It's giving us performance options. Poorly optimized games are not examples of like where the market's going. You think companies are just going to start doing that? Like, well, I mean, Gotham Knights got away with it. It didn't get away with it. Gotham Knights is an indication that you can't do that. Anybody who wants to do that is going to pay the piper. And they're going to pay the piper in angry PR and people not wanting your game. It happens on the Sony because it's a priority. It's clear. Raptor, thank you so much for gifting a member, and it goes to Captain Crunch, taking the member count to 2. CMDR Dark Knight with 4 months. You said you think they down the res for Starfield for the Series S, but they didn't. The Series S is a $1440 box. Starfield is pushing the S. I was just making a point that they seem willing to sacrifice fidelity in certain circumstances. So telling me you don't want to sacrifice fidelity is weird. DK Bayer with another gifted membership, and it goes to Patrick GF. Techno Tyrant jumps back in as a member. Thank you very much. Modders will fix it, says Techno. Only works for games that are no longer getting updates. It's a Sisyphean task. Oh, like Sisyphus. It's like a Sisyphean task. Every update has a great chance of breaking the mod and putting it right back to square one. Techno with really, really good insight and perspective on modders will fix it. It's tough for modders to fix it because, as he said, it can be like the myth of Sisyphus, pushing the rock up the hill and then it rolls all the way back down again because they come behind you and they mess up your mod, right? So a lot of the times modders don't come in and do all their great work until later. I would be interested to see, though, if we could get a mod on console that lets me turn all the stuff off. That was my other question about fidelity. You're willing to lower resolution on the S because you have to. Are you going to let people lower resolution on PC? Are you going to let PC users turn off lighting, texture, shading, shadows? Like, are you going to let PC users customize their experience? Yes? Okay. So, track with me here. Track with my logic. None of this is hate. None of this is hate. If a PC user wants to set their sights on a 60 FPS experience, and they can get there, okay, you're letting them do that. That means you're not protecting fidelity there. But on the Series X, you won't give me a performance mode. That means one of two things. Either A, you can do it, and you're refusing to, or B, it's not possible. And that means that even PC users at the recommended specs are going to struggle to get 60 FPS. Did you guys track with my logic? If a PC user on the recommended specs, because the recommended specs are within the hemisphere of the Series X's power, if that user can customize their experience and get 60 FPS, that means you could have done it on the Series X and you're refusing to. If that PC user can't do that, if they can't get it to 60 FPS, then this is a far bigger problem than, oh yeah, baby, consoles just can't do it. Consoles just can't do it. We will see very shortly. Because if the PC users can't do it at that mid-lane level, at that recommended level, then this is far bigger than, oh yeah, the consoles are too weak. Lowering resolution won't do anything for CPU bottleneck. You know, it's funny. I didn't say anything about lowering resolution. I said, can the PC user customize their experience down to a place to get 60? You're not tracking with me. You're doing talking points. You're being an NPC. I didn't say, just lower the resolution, forehead. I said, if a PC user can customize their experience down to get 60, and they achieve that, then you could give me that, and you're choosing not to. If the PC user can't do that, if they can't turn lighting, shading, texture quality, draw distance, if they can't turn those things down enough to get 60, then this problem's bigger than the Series X. This is an engine level issue. You might be looking at a 30 FPS for most of the PC audience. You might be. I'm so zoomed out on this. I'm not saying just lower the resolution. I'm not doing that. I did enough research. I read enough commentary. I looked at what John Linneman was saying. I looked at what some people said the other day in my chat about the creation engine, and I'm like, okay, that's not an easy solution. And listen, no game is that all they're doing. You understand that, right? You understand that when I switched from the 4K ray tracing mode in a PlayStation 5 game and I switch it to performance, I'm not just lowering the resolution. They're turning other features off. So the idea of like, oh, but lowering the resolution wouldn't get you more frames. Nobody's saying that. We're saying give us a performance mode. I can have a very different experience in numerous first-party PS5 games. By doing what? Turning on performance mode. Performance mode does way more than just lowering the resolution. Like, educate yourself on the technology before you start saying, oh, a hand wave. You can't just lower the resolution and get more frames. Nobody is saying that. I mean, I said it the other day, just give me 1440-60. But what I'm saying is, give me that performance mode. I have that in other games. You have to turn other things down or off. That's how they achieve that in games like Ratchet, in games like God of War. They turn off other things. They don't just lower the resolution. Flip. Oh, look at that. Double the frames. Come on, Lono. 30 FPS for PC. I think you're exaggerating a bit. What do you mean? Look at the specs. Look at the PC community's commentary on this. I'm not exaggerating at all. Go research it. Look at the recommended specs for this game. The recommended specs for this game are not that far removed from the power of the Series X, and they're telling me the Series X can't get stable 60. So if you're running recommended specs on a PC, you're probably not going to get stable 60. That's just basic logic, bro. I'm not saying anything negative about the game. I'm using their own stats, their own language to come to a conclusion. William Lewis with a $5 super chat tip. Enjoying the content. Many Xbox people I know said you were basically a PlayStation fanboy. I know it's not true. You're passionate about gaming. You're an intelligent and perceptive person. The stuff they say on Twitter, they're smear merchants. They don't want you watching me because probably because I have a superior product. If you feel threatened, put some more skill points in your confidence. Maybe make your content better. Brian M. with 5 months. Judging by the showcase footage, then console players need to be able to customize to get 30 frames. Boom, right? Let me customize my experience. William Lewis not just doing a super chat, not just doing memberships, but gifting a membership and takes us up to 4. One more for the layup. Historically speaking, says Brap, new-gen consoles have always provided an increase in performance. Gamers arguing that this shouldn't be the case is baffling to me. The revisionist history, Brap, kills me. It kills me. Before the PlayStation 5 and the Series X came out, we had people saying, yeah, enjoy choosing between 30 and 60. We're going to be choosing between 60 and 120. And now we're defending 30. Oh, how the turntables. Like, that's a 180 if I've ever seen one. Derek says, I have zero problems with locked at 30 FPS if, and I do mean if, they actually mean locked. And I mean locked up tight. Not a single drop to even 29. If we get that, okay, but I'm skeptical. Even that I'm not okay with. Yo, 2 gifted members, Raptor and Joker, both tried to do the layup of putting it at 5, so a 20 bomb would hit 25. Now the layup is for the Agent of Chaos. It'd be a 26. Thank you guys so much for those gifted members. Enjoy those gifted memberships. Oh no, it's Alex is in the chat. I watched your video this morning. I referenced it in the show open. My bet is the game engines and the physics are tied to the frame rate. Yeah, I saw you retweet that meme about, like, what do you mean consistency, Todd? Right? Is frame rate tied to the engine and the physics again, Todd? I'm telling you, and Alex, you know, you're a more PC guy than me. The logic that I applied this morning and what I've seen people say is they're like, the recommended specs on a PC is not that much stronger than a Series X. The recommended specs in Steam are very comparable to the power of the Series X. Therefore, if you have a PC within the recommended specs, you're going to struggle to get stable 60. Now, you can obviously tweak things because Todd's making you play the game at 4K. You could tweak things on your PC. But then the real question is, how many people are below recommended specs? Like, if you look at the Steam charts, the average PC user doesn't have a PC at recommended specs. They're lower. Sorry, another Alex in chat says always throws me off. DK Baker and Kicking It with Timmy B both gift memberships and take us to 8 on the day. And then I got a super chat from Elvis. Elvis says, PC is having RAM issues on both the 30 and the 40 series. We need more than 8 gig. If this takes a 2070 out, then it will force people to the 30 and the 4080 and the 90. They're not only worthwhile cards in that they're the only worthwhile cards in that generation. Thank you for the 10 spot, Everest. Series X is a waste of time and money. That's what I said during my show open. I said, can somebody please tell me why I bought the Series X? Tell me. Tell me, please. Where are the games that are going to show this off? How many, and I asked this question very carefully, how many, we're going full frame for this one, how many first-party next-gen games are hitting 60 FPS? How many? Forza? Redfall's not. Starfield's not. Flight Sim's not. How many first-party Xbox games are hitting 60 on the Series X? When are you going to show off this thing's power? When? Quit telling me to buy a PC. Quit telling me to play on PC. I bought this thing for a console that could do 4K up to 120. When are you going to show off the system's power? Because, listen, Phil Spencer says this is a creative decision. This is not a platform problem. Okay, Phil, are you going to let all your other studios do this? Are you? What about Fable? What about Avowed? What about Hellblade 2? Are you going to let them make creative decisions that rob me of 60 FPS that I don't get performance options on? Is that where we're going? You going to hand wave that too and say, well, it's not the platform's problem, it's a creative decision. When's the platform going to show up? When's the platform going to show up? Xbox Series X versus the PlayStation 5. When's it going to show up to the fight? When? I bought it to play games at the promised performance in the marketing, and I'm not getting that. I don't like racing games, so what can I play? Pentiment? I'm serious. Like, I'm looking at Hellblade thinking, y'all motherfuckers are going to make me play this game on PC, aren't you? Aren't you? I got a $500 paperweight in my living room. I got a $500 Game Pass box in my living room. That's what's going to happen, isn't it? You're going to make me play Fable on PC, aren't you? The next Gears, right? The next Gears, I'm going to have to play it on PC, right? I bought a $500 Game Pass box. Why is he shouting? Part of the show, baby. Turn the volume down. Tell your neighbors that everything's fine. What's wrong with Pentiment? Nothing. I was making a joke. When's it going to show up with the next gen power? And you gonna put Pentiment in the ring? Fake outrage is exhausting. This isn't fake outrage. What are you talking about? We just watched a showcase that I said had 10 or 11 really positive things show up. And when I looked at the language from Phil Spencer, the first thing that came to my mind was, well, hang on a minute, Phil. How many of your developers are you going to let do this? If Ninja Theory goes too far and you can't give me 60 FPS, when's the Series X gonna show up? Now, let's imagine a future where Avowed, Fable, Hellblade 2, and any of those other games. What was the other game? Clockwork Revolution. Let's imagine those all show up and they're 60. I'm good. Starfield was this weird anomalous exception. Redfall was a garbage can. Flight Sim's too ambitious. Come up with whatever you can to excuse all those titles. If Hellblade 2 and Fable and Avowed and Clockwork Revolution, if all of these come out at 60, then I'll say, okay, fine. I'm good. If all those games come out capped at 30 because of creative decisions, bro, you cannot go back and revise all the marketing. 12 teraflops, eats monsters, up to 120 FPS, and then all your mainline titles are rocking 30. Come on, man. This guy says, yesterday you were saying the opposite. What did I say yesterday that was opposite of this? What did I say? I got 100 spot from XCOM, or I don't know what NOK currency is. Any thoughts on what Todd said about exploration in the first minutes of the showcase, exploring an area versus a planet? Will they section off the planets? It does seem like the planets are going to have instances and sections. It does. There'll be loading screens when you go inside buildings. Yes. I don't think this is going to be as seamless as everybody thought it was. I thought it was going to be more seamless. It sounds like it's going to be somewhat sectioned off. I don't think it's going to be just total planet free roaming like No Man's Sky. I'm okay with that to a degree. I wasn't looking for No Man's Sky, but that's going to be a little annoying to be like, wait a minute. I can't get 60. You don't give me performance options. I got loading screens when I go into buildings, and then the open world exploration's not seamless. It's like sectioned off. It's like instances. Sprinting snail with 10 months. Series X probably the system with the least Xbox consumer attachment rate. Could be less incentive to optimize for it. For sure. Why do you think I got concerned when the Series S started outselling? He's claiming yesterday that you were on the side of Starfield being 30. No, there's not a single clip in existence of me being in support of Starfield being at 30. You're just another liar. I've never said anything to indicate that I was in support of Starfield being at 30. You probably misheard me saying I was super excited about Starfield. Starfield Direct it had it as my number one game from this Summer Game Fest. It outshined everything in the PlayStation Showcase. I said that the Starfield Direct was the best single game video event I've ever seen. It was amazing. And then the 30 FPS announcement kicked the slats out from underneath of me. There's not a clip. There's not a whisper. There's not a clip snipe. You can't find anything me saying 30 FPS in Starfield's fine. You're just lying. Revan was 6 months. I just think Starfield has some weird engine limitations that were making it too unstable with an uncapped frame rate. I said unstable in an unstable way. Ironic. Brett Williams with a $5 super chat tip. Says, I haven't played a first-party PS5 title yet that doesn't have a 60 FPS option. Why can't the Series X do that? Exactly. Listen to me. Imagine that you're doing a research project and you don't play video games. I know that's difficult, But imagine, where does it say it's not fully open world? Amos, we're speculating that it sounds like it's gonna be areas and instances. We're speculating that might be true. If it's completely open world and I can explore an entire planet, 2 thumbs way up for me. That sounds great. That's kind of what I thought we were gonna be doing in the game, especially given the fact that you can like build settlements and stuff. Anyways, you can land anywhere. They've not said you can land anywhere. I've not seen that. It seems like you pick predetermined landing spots. I don't think you can land anywhere. You don't like go down and do low atmospheric flight and pick a spot. You're looking at the planet and you pick a spot to land that has been predetermined. We haven't seen anything to indicate total global exploration of a planet. We've not seen anything to indicate you can land anywhere. Now, if they've said things in interviews and I haven't seen them, then educate me. But as far as I've noticed, you pick a landing area and they're describing exploration in the language of explore and area. You can land anywhere. I need direct quotes that say that. I've not seen any evidence of that. He said that you can do both. You can choose any point. But are the points predetermined? Are the points predetermined? Is the question I have. Like, or can you literally go down and fly around and pick a spot to land? Some of this is a waste of time. Like, that's not going to change my experience that much. There were people hating on the game because you couldn't take off and land like in No Man's Sky. I'm like, that's not important to me. I want to land on the planet I want to explore. That's all that matters to me, okay? Thank you for 2 months, Devil Shooter. Microsoft forced the Xbox Series S parity. That could also be the issue. I was saying something before we went off on this tangent, and I can't remember what I was interacting with. FPS lock for physics and timing is a big issue for PC ports like Dark Souls Nier, Halo, Master Chief Collection, and Destiny 2. They all get buggy at the higher FPS. It's easy to tell of a hasty PC port. I can't remember what I was going on a train of thought, and we got stuck on this. That's not going to change my experience that much because that was never a big priority for me. I remember one day people saying, oh, it's just like No Man's Sky, and then the next day when they found out it wasn't like No Man's Sky, they wanted to criticize the game. I'm like, pick a frickin' side here, okay? Pick a frickin' side. I don't care that I can't land and take off like in No Man's Sky. That's not a priority for me. It's not that kind of game. It's more of an RPG than space exploration sim. And the minute you see the difference between those, come on. They said that you can land anywhere, but there are pre-built points as well. Okay, so Mashreek is saying they said you can land anywhere. Okay, well, I wonder how that works, though. Do you go down and fly around? They're not predetermined. You make your own settlements and can land there if you want. You can land at pre-made cities, or you can legit land anywhere you want. Yeah, but how do you land wherever you want? You just literally go on the globe and pick a point and land there? Or if you went there before, can you land on the settlement? I don't read this as you can land at any given point. Eugene found an interview. You may be wondering just how big this game is. He answers his own question starting on just one planet. You can land into Atlantis, but you can also land and explore anywhere on the planet. And it's not just this planet, it's all the planets in the systems. Okay, that sounds like you can go anywhere you want after you land. We got to be really careful with how we read here. You can also land and explore anywhere on the planet. Or is he saying you can land and explore anywhere? You can both land and explore anywhere. Like, is anywhere's antecedent just explore? Linguistically here, it could be also attached to land, or it could be only attached to explore. It's tough to know. It sounds like he's just saying you can land and then go wherever you want. Which, I'm more interested in that. I'm way more interested in the freedom of the exploration once I'm on the planet. I don't necessarily need to land anywhere that I want, other than saving me time, I guess. If I come back to a planet and I'm like, I've already searched the surrounding area on this settlement, let me go to the other side of the planet, that would be nice. I can see why somebody would want to land anywhere. In any case, some of this is superfluous. We're getting off the subject. The main subject is 30 FPS and everything that we've been told. And I have questions for Todd. I have questions for Phil. I have even questions for John Linneman, because Linneman thinks this is a CPU issue. And he says he's being used as like, well, Digital Foundry says this is fine. He's not defending the game. He's saying from a technical aspect, this is defensible. That's not the same as defending 30 FPS. If you can't see the difference between a tech head like John Linneman defending this from a technical aspect and somebody going out there and saying 30 FPS is fine, John Linneman and the hand-waving simp are not the same. They are not the same. They are not doing the same thing. They both have very different aims in mind. He's not being an apologist for 30 FPS. He's saying, at a technical level, it is what it is. This was a necessity. The God of War dev? You mean this one here? I know y'all love to weaponize stuff like this, so I came ready today. You mean this tweet here? Where he says, it's a choice, and of course you're right to dislike the choice? You talking about this tweet here? You think he's defending 30 FPS? You think he's out here being an apologist for 30 FPS? You think that's what this is? That's not what this is. Nope. But yeah, sure, reference that. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah. Weaponize John Linneman. Weaponize the God of War dev. Oh yeah, they're defending it. Yeah. No, they're not. No, they're not. They're adding context. They're adding technical ground to be like, there's a choice. It's CPU, it's engine, you know? They're not saying 30 FPS is fine, bro. Those are two different things. Those are two different things. You've got to separate those things. At one level, I accept that from John Linneman. I'm like, thank you for the technical explanation. When they put out their video after this game lands, I'm going to love the breakdown. I'm going to eat it up. Like, explain this to me. What the frick did they do with this game? Thank you, Digital Foundry. We love you. That's not the same. That's not the same as somebody acting like 30 FPS is no problem, bro. I know 2 months ago I was saying the opposite, but now it's okay. What? Huh? What you talking about? Geez, Lono, that was almost too fast. I included this in the show open because I know y'all. I got your number. I know what you do. I know how you think. You're going to weaponize things. You're going to rip things out of context. I know how you operate in this space. I've learned, right? I've adapted, right? It's like in the Matrix when Neo's like, upgrades. It's like that. It's like, I knew people were going to do that. They're like, well, the God of War Ragnarok dev said it's fine. No, we didn't. Well, John Linneman from Digital Foundry says it's fine. That's not what he said. What do you mean, y'all? The game tracks every object. Every object has its own physics. I addressed this in the show open. Okay, this is the landing spot. All right, hang on a second. Let me pull this up. Is it? Oh, it's a 9-second clip. Give me a second here. Let's pull this clip up. I want to address the persistent issue. Okay, I want to address the idea of like, you know. Hang on a minute. Okay, I need sound. Let me get my headphones on. All right, here we go. This is the clip. Here we go.
Starts with the planet you're currently on. You can see all of its info and resources. You can choose a landing spot or fast travel to known locations.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, there's our answer. Yeah, there's our answer. That's actually exciting to me. I like that you can choose to land anywhere because, like I said, if you've already explored an area and you want to kind of like flip the planet over and go somewhere else, that's a good feature. I like that feature. Thank you for finding that clip. That information's helpful. That wasn't a part of my show open. That's not a part of my analysis of this game. I even told people it's not that big of a deal. It doesn't need to be No Man's Sky, but that's a nice feature. Otavio Cruz with the 10 spot. No land vehicles, doesn't sell free exploration. Okay. Amos is saying that correctly saying it sounds predetermined. No, but Eugene, if you watch, he designates a landing spot. You have to watch the video and listen to what he says. He literally creates a landing spot just out in the middle of nowhere, and it puts a little arrow. So you're basically telling the game, hey, being right here, put me here. And then it's going to instance you down there. Because you don't fly down. If you watch the video, he puts a little arrow on the planet. He actively goes bing, and you see, like, you see it. Like, if let's watch it again. See, he goes, you can designate a landing spot, ding, and he just literally created a spot, and then you can pick land over here. So he's actively creating his own landing spot. That's actually a pretty cool feature. I'm gonna give him mad props for that one. That's actually pretty dope. That's pretty big. That's a pretty big system in my mind. Like, technically speaking, that's a pretty big system. So, Matt Bingman says, in the direct video, you can see at the bottom right, you can pick a landing spot. Yeah, we just showed a clip that shows it in action. Thank you for the timestamp, though. Okay, I want to go with what Amos is saying. I want to track with this, because I think this is really, really important. Amos is saying, well, the game persistently tracks arbitrary items. I added some better words. It persistently tracks arbitrary items. Sandwiches, cups, rocks, peanut butter. Who the frick cares? All these things are persistently tracked. Cool. Technical explanation. Thank you. Oh, that's why this game's going to struggle with 60 FPS. Okay, great. When you're sitting in a really long queue for a brand new game, if I break down technically why that's happening, does that make that more enjoyable to you? If a dev comes out and gives you a really good in-depth technical explanation as to why their game is stuttering, does that make the game more enjoyable to you? Does that make the stuttering more tolerable? You can give me a technical explanation as to why this game's at 30. That doesn't make it a good experience. I agreed with Alex's video this morning. You can't describe 30 FPS as a smooth experience. You can't. Even if it's locked in at 30, it's not smooth. It's not smooth. It doesn't feel good. It is dissonant with the modern gaming landscape right now. Even Fortnite got 60 FPS on old consoles. Like, I get the technical explanation, but that doesn't make me say, oh, thank you. That makes it all better now. Well, the reason your face hurts is because technically, I hit it with a bat. Well, okay, that doesn't make my nose stop bleeding. And this leads to one of the questions in my show open that I think is really important. I think this is a really important question. Eugene says, we lost 60 FPS so they can build a pile of sandwiches. Hang on, I've got some people to thank. My man Trill Troll coming in with 12 months, and it's a VIP. I made it 1 year. Congrats on the success. Let's be real for a second. You know damn well that if Sony released their games at 30, everyone would torch them for it. Let's call a spade a spade. Nobody would allow us to excuse it. I won't excuse it if Final Fantasy 16 struggles with frames. I will not hand wave and excuse it. I won't. All signs point to it being only in the demo. We will know very shortly. We will know very shortly if that game struggles with FPS. Do you want to know why I'll hold them accountable? Because they bragged about squeezing the power and displaying the power of the PS5. And if you can't give me consistent frames, then you made bad choices. As a developer, you made bad choices. You prioritized things that robbed me of consistent frames per second, and that's bad development. That's bad scope. You got beyond the scope of what you should have done. which leads to my thought and question about the development cycle of Starfield. Paul with 12 months and it's a member plus. Morrowind tracked all items back in 2002 on an OG Xbox with 64 mega RAM. I don't know why people are using that to defend 30 FPS. Well, here's the thing, Paul. Yo, what's good, feed? Good morning. Good to see you in the chat. You know what I find interesting is how quickly everybody is finding excuses and answers. And Todd didn't say that. Todd didn't say that. Did Todd say we provide a persistent experience, an open world experience, a dynamic experience, this emergent, and you have all these amazing things that you can do to give you your own customizable experience, and maintaining that is very difficult while also maintaining 60? Is that what Todd said? That's not what Todd said. Todd talked about fidelity. Todd talked about fidelity. We want to maintain fidelity. Zelda's amazing development considering it runs on an effing graphing calculator, right? All of this is orbiting around my question about the dev cycle, for Starfield. I got to get my show notes up because there's a little bit of math involved here, and I don't want to misspeak. There's a little bit of math involved. The flip-flopping on 60 to 30s, that it's okay is staggering, says Donnie. I actually can't believe what I'm seeing at times. It's because they're more beholden to a brand and a narrative than the truth. When you are beholden to the truth, you can step out with boldness and integrity every day and just be consistent. I can criticize Final Fantasy 16. I can criticize the Last of Us port to PC. I can criticize Redfall. I can criticize Starfield. Why? I'm beholden to the truth. I'm not beholden to your brand. I'm not beholden to your color. Green versus blue. Who gives a frick? Even in my praise of Zelda, I said, this really puts on full display that we need a new Switch. This really puts on full display that it's time for new hardware. I can't even go back to it. Zelda was tolerable because I hadn't been playing games. We had gone through a gaming drought. I had just come off of Redfall of all games. I was like, all right, Tears of the Kingdom. I was like, okay, this isn't so bad. This is tolerable. And then I helped my son in Kena Bridge of Spirits. And then I helped my daughter in Stray. I tried to go back and I was like, I can't. It's really, really hard to enjoy 30 FPS. As good as it is, even then, I was like, I just can't do it. Mo says, would rather have 60 all the time. Are you asking me or are you saying that you would rather have 60, Mo? I actually respect that. If you're willing to be like, man, I would rather have 60 all the time. You can stuff your sandwiches in a sack. I would like to have 60. Eugene says, the answer, Todd, hang on. The answer Todd wants his games to be cinematic and high fidelity. Why don't people believe him? He said months ago 30 FPS cinematic feel was fine. Right, like the run. Spider-Man will probably be 30 FPS. Somebody frame that. Please frame that for me. Yeah, dude. Insomniac's proprietary engine is really showing its wear and tear. Yeah. Spider-Man 2 is going to be 30. Quit embarrassing yourself. You look like these guys that wish they didn't tweet just 6 months ago that 30 FPS is unacceptable, that 30 FPS is not next gen, that 30 FPS is embarrassing. They all wish there weren't screenshots of them saying such bonehead things. Well, they weren't bonehead at the time. Now they're saying bonehead things like, whoa, 30 is fine within the scope of the game and all the things I'm going to get to do. Please ignore the tweets from 6 months ago. Spidey is probably going to be at 30. Save that one for the books, boys. Save it. You want to know about Spider-Man? If you go to VRR mode, the performance setting will sit between 80 and 90. That's absurd to me. I'm kind of with Eugene on this, right? Hey, by the way, we have almost 1,200 people here. What a monster turnout. Can you guys smash the like button? Can you guys smash that like button? Let's get to 500 likes. Let's have a little run on the member goal. Give some members. Hey, by the way, I have a coffee alert. Let me turn it on. If you order coffee, it'll pop up and tell me. It supports me, supports my family. Consider ordering some coffee today. If you've never tried coffee with balanced acidity, try Reforge Roast. You can go to reforgeroast.com. It's been over an hour. I don't run ads. Let me do a little spot here where I talk about all the ways to support. People were giving me grief, like I was talking about it too much. Okay, well, you just got an hour and 15 minutes of uninterrupted talk show. Here's a little spot, reforgeroast.com for coffee. Gift members to the channel. It's how I do what I do. This is my full-time gig. Thanks to all the generous support from viewers like you. Now, I'm with Eugene. I did a talk show a while ago called 30 FPS, the 30 FPS reality about Starfield. And I went back to the Lex Friedman interview with Todd Howard, and it was very clear to me that Todd Howard was talking about Starfield in that interview, right? He's saying if the simulation's running and the players are having freedom and all those things are running, then we're okay with 30 FPS. I'm like, the only game he could be talking about is Starfield. That was not a discussion when they were developing Skyrim. That was not a discussion when they were developing Fallout 4, okay? So I tried to warn people. Now, the only reason I thought we were going to get 60 on the Series X was because Phil Spencer made it seem like they were going to address this in the Starfield Direct. And I'm like, there's no way they say 30 FPS in the Starfield Direct. It'll be devastating to the day. I was right, but I was also wrong. I was right. They're not going to say 30 FPS during the Starfield Direct. They know that's going to be bad news. And they did. They saved it for interviews later, which, call that what it is. You're kind of hiding it. You don't want people to know. You didn't put it in an article or a blog. You sat down on a couch with somebody and said it. Okay? But I tried to say back then, I was like, this guy's okay with 30 in Starfield. William Lewis with the $5 Super Chat tip. Don't put too much faith in Game Awards. What do you think the best game will be? Several people in my PlayStation vs. Xbox group on the Blue are saying SM2 is Game of the Year. Oh, Spider-Man 2? Thank you, DK Bager. Dude, the Game of the Year race is thank you, DK Baker, for gifting a member. It's going to struggle to hit 60, and when it does, it's 1080. Yep. I love hearing people talk about PlayStation games who don't own a PlayStation 5 and have clearly never touched a single piece of first-party property on the PlayStation 5. Yeah, Spider-Man 2 is going to struggle to hit 60, and if it does, it'll be 1080. Okay. Sure. Tell me you've never looked at a video or a technical breakdown of PlayStation 5 games without telling me you've never looked at one. Remarkable. What was I saying? Oh, Game of the Year. Yeah, Game of the Year is a tight race. Final Fantasy 16 is about to walk into the world. And the praise that it's getting, the demo, at every level, that game is checking boxes. I'm going to tell you something right now. I couldn't even play Diablo 4 last night because I was like, I would just rather play Final Fantasy 16 demo, and I didn't think I was going to enjoy that game at all. I thought, I'm not going to enjoy the combat. I typically don't like the way they do story in these games. I don't really like Devil May Cry. I'm not really a JRPG guy. I don't think this game's going to land on me. I couldn't stop playing it. I couldn't stop playing it. That game's in a special spot. Mo says Spider-Man will be 60. It's Insomniac. Thank you, Mo. Mo's a huge Xbox guy, but at least he can admit he knows. Come on, man. Insomniac are wizards. A $5 tip from Adam. Words from a Meltdown Xbox fan. 60 FPS is a buzzword that people love to tout as a victory for their console games, and for some games, it makes sense. Yeah, when I saw that, I said to myself, why would anybody take you seriously ever? Ever. It's interesting that a lot of the reporters and a lot of the journalists that lacked integrity in the past And I saw it, and some of you saw it. And now we're really seeing it. Tanya coming in with a gifted member and puts us at 10. Oh, that's not a gifted member. No. She gifted a member to herself. Thank you, Tanya, for becoming a brand new member. Y'all are crushing it. The demo is perfectly playable. Okay, the Final Fantasy 16 demo has some issues with frames. The haters of Sony will have you believe that it's running terrible. That simply isn't true. There are sections where the frame rate is struggling and lacking stability. And apparently, we're playing 3 versions ago. We're playing 0.01, and the launch version of the game is 0.03. So we're playing a 3 versions old demo. This is the same demo that people played at the previews that said there's some frame rate issues. So none of this is new news. None of this is new news. This is just, I hate Sony. There's a millisecond clip I can find where the frame rate drops. I'm going to take that screenshot and throw it in people's faces on Twitter. Okay, if the launch version of the game is struggling with frames per second, that'll be a criticism. That will be a valid criticism in light of how they marketed it and in light of all of their interviews. The game's not out yet. It's running terrible. It's like 40. That's false. K. Cole with gifted a membership to K. Who is that? True King. The FPS is not horrible. I played it the other night. It's if it was at 40, I wouldn't have been able to enjoy it. It's running terrible. It's at 40. Oh, here's the next part of your sentence. At some points. Oh. It's running terrible. Why? Well, at some points it drops to 40. Oh. I thought it was running terrible. I didn't have any issues in any of the fights. I noticed frame rate in the one town where I was in. There was all these NPCs everywhere. There was all these buildings everywhere. And I was like, oh gosh, the frames are real bad right now. And then I got out there into the fights, and it was fine. Lono in denial? In denial about what? Is there screen tearing? I don't know. Jedi Survivor, we're still waiting for patch 6 to fix that. I can't play that game. Screen tearing's terrible. It's been fixed on PC. No, it hasn't. It's sitting at a 68% on PC in the last 30 days. Quit kidding yourself. The point is, you know what's funny? Hang on a second. I need to pull something up here. I have to check something. I have to check. Yep, that's right. That's right. Hey, look. My stream is about Starfield. Do you see that? Look. Starfield 30 FPS. Look what happens when I click on it. Look. There's some little wiry guy with glasses yelling and screaming. And look right here. Starfield. That's what this is about. This isn't about Final Fantasy 16. I just had to double check what today's stream was about. Because it seems like we're going to try to distract from the topic by talking about a different game on a different system. If Final Fantasy 16 has problems, it'll get its day in the sun. I'll drag it out and I'll say, great game, great story. You guys made some bad design choices because I can't get consistent 60. But that's not today's stream. A lot of clips here. Clip me. The algorithm loves me the more you talk about me. Ain't nobody looking you up. It's dropping frames in traversal, says Eugene. It's smooth in combat, and y'all are too dumb to realize that that's weird and it's going to be fixed. Pretty sure you brought it up, but okay. I didn't bring it up, but okay. I didn't bring it up. Somebody in chat came in and brought it up. Somebody came in and said it. Well, Final Fantasy 16. And the same thing is happening with Spider-Man. I didn't bring up Spider-Man 2. Some guy in chat brought up Spider-Man 2. Well, Spider-Man 2 is probably not going to be able to hit 60. What? Don't let them gaslight you. I'm not being gaslit. Starfield 4K 30 doesn't bother me, but I want 60. If I had a PC, that's where I would play. Devin, one of my primary questions about Starfield on PC is, will you allow people to turn all those things off and down? Right? We could never talk about games because the entire show is always dedicated to Lono in his feelings versus obvious trolls. I mean, there are obvious trolls, and then there are douchebags like you, who I walk out the door. I'm not in my feelings. I'm in my head. If I was in my feelings, I would have been just totally drawn into a debate about Final Fantasy 16. I realized what people were doing, and I was like, no, we're not doing that. This is the subject. You think me pulling up the stream and raising my voice is me and my feelings? It's called... I'm not breaking the fourth wall. I'm not breaking the fourth wall for you. You're banned. I'm not breaking the fourth wall for you. If you can't tell the difference between somebody and their feelings and showmanship, then I don't know what to tell you. You probably can't tell the difference between 30 and 60 FPS either, so that your perceptive abilities are very low. If you think there's zero difference between mentioning that Final Fantasy hasn't come out and therefore will be fixed, but since Starfield isn't out yet, why be mad about it? The game is said to be 30. The game is not said to be 30. Todd Howard, in an interview, specifically stated, we're not analyzing gameplay footage and coming to a conclusion. Todd Howard said in an interview, 4K on the Series X, 1440 on the Series S, and it's capped at 30. He's basically setting expectations. They're not going to fix this or patch this before launch, homie. They're not going to fix this or patch this before launch. Oh no, it's Alex's video 17 minutes ago. Dude is crazy. Did he do another video? He did one this morning that I particularly enjoyed. What's his new one? Or is it the same one? Is it the one that says frame rate? Yeah, that's 4 hours ago. Maybe he tweeted. That's a 4-hour-old video. The vocal minority will not ruin a game. Was it the vocal minority that got upset about performance in Gotham Knights? Was it a vocal minority that got upset about 30 FPS in Redfall? Was that a vocal minority? Both those games went viral for 30 FPS. This isn't a vocal minority. Oh, it's a 44-second video. Oh, did he do a short? He's a hate merchant? He's not a hate merchant. You don't understand what he's doing. There are smear merchants. There are hate merchants. That's not what he's doing. I don't think they're going to bring 60 later, Mo. I don't think so. I don't think they're going to add in performance mode later. I don't. Redfall was a terrible game, though. Okay, but Guru, now hang on now. Go back to what I said. Gotham Knights went viral because of 30 FPS. The game wasn't out yet. Redfall went viral because the game was 30. The game wasn't out yet. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm not trying to go to bad games to be like, oh yeah, this is an example of what I'm talking about. I'm saying, was it a vocal minority that got really upset about Gotham Knights? You have unrealistic expectations to today's games? No, I do not. So, if expectations are unrealistic, they would be unmet, Lewis. And the fact that my expectations are consistently met by my PlayStation 5, then they're not unrealistic expectations. You can't demonstrate that my expectations are unrealistic because I can demonstrate that my expectations are being met. If you go into a pizza joint and your expectation is to have a pizza in 2 minutes, that's unrealistic because they can't make them that fast. If your expectation when you go and buy a hot and ready from Little Caesars is that you're going to have a pizza in 2 minutes and then it's met. Well, that's a realistic expectation of that establishment. Do you see? Like, I have expectations of games. Those expectations are being met by first-party PlayStation titles. They're not being met by first-party Xbox titles. That doesn't... Your failure to meet my expectations don't make them unrealistic. Do you understand? Like, if you have expectations that are being met, and then someone over here doesn't meet them, that they're not suddenly unrealistic expectations. Redfall was a miss. The devs wanted it canceled. I mean, that's not... But again, you're getting down into the minutia. What I'm saying is that I can demonstrate that my expectations are reasonable because they're being met. If I was the boss of a company and I had a team of people over here showing up on time, and then I have you over here not showing up on time, and you're like, boss, traffic's been so bad because of construction, man. Your expectations just aren't reasonable. And I'm like, all of these people over here are dealing with the same thing you're dealing with, and they're getting here on time. Therefore, my expectations are being consistently met over here. You not meeting my expectations don't make them unrealistic. That's actually a deep question. Frustration exists in the gap between reality and expectations. Maybe your expectations need to move to match reality. Maybe it's the children that are wrong. No, that's not true, because reality is demonstrating that my expectations can be met. Reality is demonstrating it to me. I can boot up countless games on my PlayStation 5 that are next-gen, first-party titles that give me the performance I was promised. I have numerous examples of my expectations being met. If my expectations were not being met by PlayStation, I'd be just as critical. I would be just as irritated. In 2019, when they started marketing these consoles, I remember geeking, screaming about for so long, give us 60, give us 60, give us 60. I had converted to PC. I was playing all my games on PC. I was playing Fortnite. I was playing Destiny 2. I was playing new first-person shooters on my PC. And I was like, this is such a better experience. Give us frames per second. And when they started saying the next gen of consoles was going to give us up to 120 frames per second, I thought, oh my gosh, if you can get up to 120 frames per second, then surely I will consistently get 60. And that's all I've ever wanted. I've even had people give me grief. Why do you cap your games at 60 on PC? Why don't you bump it up to 120 or 144? And I've always said, I get better consistent capture. I never have to worry about screen tearing through my capture card. I just have adjusted my eyeballs to 60. Just give me 60. Did Bethesda promise 60? There it is. There it is. The Neo bending backwards, dodging buck pass. There it is. Did Bethesda ever promise 60? Okay. Yeah. That's a good point. Sure. Mm-hmm. Yep. Did Insomniac promise 60? So if Spider-Man 2 comes out at 30, I guess I get to hand wave. Insomniac never promised 60. I mean, they're a first-party property. They're a first-party studio from the company that promised me a next-generation console that could get up to 120 FPS. But Insomniac didn't promise it. They're a first-party studio. What are you talking about? Microsoft did, Xbox did. Yeah, and you know what's wonderful about being a first-party studio? You represent their brand. Mo is being a champion today. Mo is super pro Xbox, and he said Xbox said 60 is the standard, so that's what they need to hit. He is exactly right. You cannot come out and say Xbox Series X standard output 60. Architecture will allow up to 120, and then hand wave 30. I'm like, it's fine. But Bethesda didn't say that. Bethesda didn't say that. They can put out a game at what? At what? Did Bethesda promise you, did they promise you prior to this week? Rewind the clock like a week. Did they promise you 30 FPS? No? Well, then they can give you a game at 20. Right? Well, if they didn't promise it, they can fall woefully below it, right? That's your logic. Well, Hellblade 2 didn't promise me 60 FPS. So if Hellblade 2 comes out at 15 FPS, that's fine. That's fine. They didn't promise me 60. Why would I think I'd get 60 out of a next-gen game? Like, why would I think that? I mean, I don't know. There was only blogs, tweets, articles, videos, commercials, advertisements, just all of those things promising 4K resolution, no load times, up to 120 frames per second. I mean, all of those things happened, but let's hand wave, let's do revisionist history, act like none of that happened, and then say, well, Bethesda didn't promise 60. Some of y'all wouldn't make it out of a freshman speech and debate class in high school. You wouldn't make it out of the room. A freshman would eat you alive in high school in a speech and debate class. Arguing from silence, special pleading, goalpost moving, obfuscation of the facts. You wouldn't last 5 seconds. Some 14-year-old would straighten his glasses and be like, well, and he'd decimate you. He would just swing a logical machete and you'd be done. The defense of this is ridiculous. And hear me. I've been trying to do this throughout the show. It's very difficult. There is a dividing line between technical understanding of why it's 30 frames per second from John Linneman and defending it as okay or it's not that big of a deal. Those two are different. K.Cole with a $5 super chat. You're killing it with the logic, my boy. I'd hate to be a fanboy watching your streams. Mercy. Mercy. Thank you for the 5 spot. I heard the spin on that. Mercy. Mercy. Guys, are we going to hit this goal today of 25? Make me gift 5. Every 25 members, I got to give 5 back. I actually have a great premiere today. I think you guys are going to like today's video. We're not going to it anytime soon. We got a little bit of time, but just giving you a little brief commercial. I reacted to Mr. Matty Plays. I like Matty, but I reacted to Mr. Matty Plays about Avowed because I do not agree with him about Avowed. I think you guys will like that video. That will be later today, so make sure and check it out. Tell your friends. We like to do dialogue-driven and charitable reaction videos here. Matty's video is doing quite well. I also like to give some time. His video will be up for almost 48 hours before we react to it, so we make sure and leave that window of time. But the Avowed discussion is another interesting one. So make sure and check that video out later today. Or if you're here at the end of the stream, we will redirect over to it. You can come with us. And you may get a gifted member because I wait until the very last second to gift members to maximize the amount of time for you guys to hit big goals. Matty's based. I like Matty, but I don't agree with him on Avowed. You guys, I think you guys will like the video. You were wrong when you said Halo Infinite wasn't first party for Xbox. I didn't say Halo wasn't first party. I said it's not a next-gen game. Henry Heck comes in with a gifted member. Are we going to get a little gifted member train going? A little single gifted member train? Let's see what you guys got. Can you walk this all the way to 25 with singles? I phrased my question very carefully. I said, how many first-party next-gen games are hitting 60 on the Xbox Series X? That was my question. Forza? And yes, you did. I saw a clip of you saying that. Oh, did I misspeak and say it wasn't first-party? I think you did say that, but accidentally. I mean, come on. I was clearly not saying it's not a first-party title. I speak very quickly. Goodness gracious. You literally said Halo wasn't first-party. You got me. They got me, guys. They got me. I misspoke. Do you honestly think that I think Halo isn't first-party? I meant to say it's not next-gen. Jiminy Christmas. What a gotcha moment. I can't wait to see the headlines. That's amazing. Guy speaks extemporaneously for an hour and a half. He accidentally said that Halo Infinite's not first party. In the context of the discussion, I was clearly driving home the point that Halo is first party, but it's not next gen. I misspoke. Like, come on. Is that the best you can do? Got him. Got him. This guy thinks Halo's not first party. Welfare Rockstar with a $5 super chat tip. The game is extremely ambitious, though. I don't think you could compare it to anything with this level of graphics and size and scope. It's insane. You know what? I will actually grant that point. I will. These people are like, show me a game on PlayStation that is this big and lets you do this much. Well, I'd show you No Man's Sky, but that's a sore subject for some people. I kind of have to grant the point. The ambition, the freedom, the size, the scope, sure. I'll grant you that point. I'll even grant you the point that I don't have a game like that on my PlayStation. I don't. That's fine. Because I can turn around and say, how many action-adventure games do you have at the quality of Forbidden West, Ragnarok, and Tsushima, and Death Stranding? How many? Like, we can play this game all day, can't we? Like, I'll grant you that point. We don't have a game like that over on the PlayStation 5. We also don't have action-adventure games at the scope of first-party PlayStation titles over on Xbox. And that's totally fine. That's fine. I actually respect the fact that Bethesda was like, yo, let's go big. Let's go big. Let's go crazy. My opinion, they flew too close to the sun. This game has been in active development, according to Todd Howard, since 2015. So 8 years of development. Why did you exceed technology? Why did you exceed hardware that wasn't even in circulation when the development of this game started? Why would you do that? No Man's Sky is not the same. I agree with you. I think like scope and size and freedom is similar, but No Man's Sky doesn't have the depth. It doesn't. People that are acting like No Man's Sky is like a better version than Starfield, cut the crap. You know that's not true. There is no RPG depth in No Man's Sky. There's no build crafting. The shooting mechanics in No Man's Sky leave a lot to be desired for. As far as I can tell, Starfield looks like a really, really good shooter. The people that are still to this day, blows my mind. They're still hand-waving and saying, Starfield's not really a shooter. Did you watch the same thing I watched? The Starfield Direct made it very clear to me, this is a real good shooter. I've been playing shooters for a very long time, and I can tell when I'm looking at a good shooter. Have you seen Witchfire? If you guys are big fans of shooters and you're a big fan of rogues, put Witchfire on your radar. Brilliant looking shooter. So the people that are acting like No Man's Sky is better than Starfield. Really? Are you playing No Man's Sky right now? Are you? Have you played the shooting in that game? Have you gotten in combat in that game? Come on. RPG depth, build crafting, customization. It's there, but it's not at the same time. No Man's Sky has breadth. Probably maybe a little bit more breadth than Starfield. But No Man's Sky does not have the depth. It doesn't have the precision either that we see in the shooting in Starfield. So that comparison, all I was trying to say was, like, if you want a really big, expansive game, there is one. But point being, even that one doesn't do all the stuff that you're going to be able to do in Starfield. Does that make sense? Point being, when you have every system, it's really easy to concede that point and say, you're right. Yeah, no, you're right. The breadth and the scope and the depth of Starfield, I don't have anything like that on my PlayStation 5. You are correct. I also can't boot up my Series X and play a single game at the graphical fidelity of virtually all of the first-party titles I have on my PS5 outside of Forza. Where's the next-gen power? Where are the next-gen games? Where are the action-adventure games? Where? Now, Hellblade 2 may deliver all of that on a platter. It may give me amazing next-gen performance. It may be really amazing action-adventure. It may give me both. And I will welcome that. I kind of want to see that from Xbox. Like, dude, take a crack at the action-adventure genre. Let's see what you got. Everybody always says, that's all Sony does. Well, they do it so well that Xbox doesn't even seemingly want to try to do a game like that. Like, come on, Xbox. You guys have got some good studios. Let's see what Ninja Theory can do. Let's see it. Come on. I want it. I want to be able to boot up my Xbox and, have something that shows off the power that isn't a frickin' racing game. Starfield VR. Starfield VR would be pretty hot. I will readily admit that. It makes me wish that the Series X had a VR unit, because then the FPS wouldn't matter. I would just play it with the VR. And that's you don't necessarily need like the higher frame rate. They'd be able to lower fidelity, give me good frame rate, and I'd be good. Because the No Man's Sky VR is just, whoa. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's a little too awesome. I get a little motion sick. I get a little motion sick in No Man's Sky. It looks like Fallout 4 shooting. Oh, I don't agree with that at all. The original Starfield footage that we saw last year, I thought looked like Fallout 4 shooting. The shooting that we saw in the Starfield Direct was 10 times better. The movements, the gun handling, the recoil, the enemy impact, the player feedback. It had all the hallmarks of a good shooter. All the things I look for in a good shooter, it had it. It felt nice. The shotgun felt nice. The SMG felt nice. The little sidearms and pistols felt nice. Bro, I'm telling you what, that was the thing that tipped me over. Because I was like interested in Starfield, and then when I saw the shooting, and I was like, because I like playing shooters. I grew up on shooters. That's what I cut my teeth on as a gamer. From GoldenEye to the most recent shooter that we could have played. It's the same. The enemies are even as bullet spongy as in Fallout 4. Well, now hang on a minute. No. The enemies having health bars is an RPG mechanic. That doesn't make the shooting like Fallout 4. I think you're making an equivalency jump. Well, they're spongy. They have health bars, so it's like Fallout 4. No. I thought that the health bars and the shooting went together. It kind of reminded me of Borderlands a teeny bit, which I like. Diablo with guns. The idea of seeing a health bar, seeing numbers pop up. I don't think we saw numbers pop up in the Starfield trailer, but you do see their health bars going down. As far as I can tell, Starfield has set its sights on being a very good shooter, and that's praiseworthy. It's not like Doom. That's preposterous. I wouldn't put it on Doom's level, but I would certainly say it's in the category. Now, I could play the game and change my mind, especially if I can't get 60 FPS, because 60 FPS versus 30 FPS affects everything. They were dying pretty fast, Patrick Q. That's good pushback. I didn't feel like any of the enemies lived that long. A couple of them lived, half of the clip maybe, right? Anyways. The 30 FPS may actually make it feel bad because it affects everything. It affects aim assist, it affects frame timing, it affects your ability to feel like you have like a crisp aim down sight experience. You know that feeling where you bring the gun up really snappy and aim at somebody? Not going to feel as good at 30. Just to let you know, Halo Infinite and Hi-Fi Rush is Xbox first party. Oh my gosh. That's been clipped and put somewhere. You guys are pathetic and hilarious. Thank you for continuing to make me relevant. I simply misspoke. Hate watchers are good for business. I was talking specifically in a rant about where are the first-party next-gen games hitting 60? Where are the first-party next-gen games that show off the power of the Series X? And I simply misspoke. I was trying to say Halo Infinite's not next-gen. My brain grabbed the wrong word. I said Halo Infinite's not first-party. I simply misspoke. I know that Halo Infinite's first party. Whoever clipped that and put that out there, thank you for being a walking billboard and commercial for my brand and my content. You Neanderthals. Newtonian with a $2 tip. The enemies just stood there. The AI looked bad. Early game AI and generally AI in these games, I'm never going to expect them to be brilliant, but I would hope that the further you get in the game, the AI is a little bit more challenging. William Lewis with a $2 super chat tip. Some people must not be watching live. Oh, it's clearly been clipped. We have hate watchers that live for moments like that. They do. I've been live for an hour and 50 minutes. I have said thousands of words, and I misspoke. You have a 5-second clip of me misspeaking, and like you genuinely think that I this is what I do for a living, and that I mistakenly thought that Halo wasn't first party. Found it. Simply misspoke. Meant to say it isn't next gen. Thanks for the free promotion, though. Thank you, J-Rock, whoever J-Rock is. I don't know who that is. But J-Rock has a clip of me saying it. Like, I simply misspoke. Thanks for the free promotion, bud. Rabbit with a $5 super chat. Keep up the great work, Lono. Love the channel. Also, I was wondering, how do I upgrade my gifted membership to a VIP membership? You can use the upgrade command, or you can go to the, what's it called? Purchases and memberships. If you're on mobile, go to your profile and go to, like, purchases and memberships. That's why some people delete live streams. If I deleted every live stream where I made a mistake or misspoke, I probably wouldn't have very many live streams. It was just a simple mistake. Like, I'm not threatened by that. Like, if you're going to enter the landscape of live streaming, you just have to accept the fact that, like, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to misspeak. You're gonna misstep. It was a simple mistake. We were simply trying to draw attention to the fact that there are very few first-party, next-gen titles hitting 60. I just simply misspoke and said, oh, it's not first-party. I was in the middle of a rant about how, well, that's not next-gen. You don't have very many first-party, next-gen titles hitting 60. What's the upgrade to VIP command? It's upgrade. Exclamation point upgrade, I believe. Just based on pronunciations and what you do to metaphors, nothing would survive. Yeah, no stream would be safe. I misspeak from time to time. The other day, I did it with Fable. I was meaning to say in-engine, and I kept saying in-game. I just misspoke because I have a quote in front of my face that says in-game and in-engine. And what your brain does when you're going really fast is it just grabs one sometimes by mistake. And I accidentally kept saying in-game, in-game. I was looking at that section of the monologue, and I was like, why am I saying that? And then I finally corrected and said in-engine. And I was like, Jiminy Christmas, you idiot. But when you're talking a mile a minute and you got 30-minute monologues, you'll grab the wrong word sometimes. And I did it the other day talking about Fable. I kept saying in-game, and I was meaning to say in-engine. I make mistakes. I'm human. Sorry. If that's entertaining, then your bar for entertainment is incredibly low. Look at this guy making a mistake and misspeaking. Isn't this entertaining? Jiminy Christmas, raise your standards. Golly. A gifted member from Stone Spire. Thank you so much. Taking us to 13 members on the day. Anyone keeping count how many console exclusives on either side have 60 FPS option? Well, every first-party Sony game has the 60 FPS option, so there's that count. All right. The reason that you now have a clip of me saying Halo's not first party, the reason that I said that was I had a question on my board. I had a question on my board. What first party next gen hit 60 FPS? Forza. What's the next game? What's the next first party next gen game? Halo's not next gen. Hi-Fi Rush is not next gen. Those are first party games, but they're not next gen. Five months ago, you said whole, but you meant to say whole. Got 'em, boys. Never go full pony like this guy. Okay. If you think 2 hours of breaking down, what Todd said, what Phil said, asking questions, trying to get to the heart of why this game is going to run the way that it is, what are they going to let you customize on PC? If you think that's me being a pony, did you pre-order the collector's edition? Oh no, Colt Eastwood's responding. Isn't he the same person that said Starfield would be at 60 FPS? Back in March when the announcement trailer happened? Maybe ask Colt about that. I misspoke. You misled the public. Which is worse. Can we weigh the difference between the two? This guy misspoke and said Halo's not first party in a rant about Halo not being next gen. I misled the public about Redfall and Starfield being at 60 FPS, but this guy, he misspoke. Okay. Looks like I was investing into a capable gaming PC to ensure 60 FPS. I said that in my show open. I said, I told you guys I don't really like playing on PC. I told you that I don't like getting involved with, hardware, but I might for Starfield. I might, because that's how good the game looked during the Direct. That's how good it looked. I was literally in the middle of the Starfield Direct, and I told people, I said, if they can nail performance, we might be looking at Game of the Year. If they can get this thing to run well, this thing's a contender for Game of the Year. I was when they showed it to us last year, I thought, oh, that looks like a pretty good RPG. Looks like it'd be really fun. I could see sinking hours into that if it's 60 FPS, right? It'll give me more depth than No Man's Sky does. It'll give me more of a shooter experience than No Man's Sky does. Then the Starfield Direct happens, and I'm like, bro. I'll do whatever I have to play this game at 60 FPS. Now, according to the specifications, I might have to upgrade my computer because my computer's a 2080. And my computer and the Series X aren't super far from each other. And you're telling me that I can't just lower the resolution to get more frames per second. Well, okay. No one said Red Dead Redemption 2 must be played on PC. Red Dead Redemption 2 was not launched in a next-gen period. It was not launched at a time when the expectation was that our hardware would give a 60 FPS. False equivalency. Invoking Red Dead, invoking old games, that's just a false equivalency. That has nothing to do with where we are right now. I didn't expect to get 60 FPS out of any game back then. It's not what we were promised. 2080 is said to be recommended according to Steam. Right, and a 2080 is not that much stronger than the 2070 Super. So the Xbox Series X, it stands to reason that my PC is not that much stronger than my Series X. It's probably marginally stronger. You could probably measure it, compare, run a benchmark in Halo Infinite or something. Run a benchmark in a game that's on the Series X and on my rig. Run a benchmark, and my rig's probably stronger. It's not that much stronger. So, am I going to be able to get consistent 60 is the question. How many cores in your CPU? I don't know. Because that was the thing that John Linneman said, is like, this seems to be a CPU issue. I have an Intel Core i9 9900 CPU at 3.6. I don't know how that stacks up against the 12 teraflops. Is it confirmed 30? Yes, on console. How do you not know what kind of PC you have? Well, I have a streaming rig, I have a gaming rig, I have a streaming rig that I sometimes have to use if this one goes into the shop to get like parts replaced. I have a gaming rig up in my living room that my wife and I use for her playing Borderlands. It's hard to keep it all straight, homie. Like, not trying to hardware flex on you, but when you do what I do, I have lots of stuff in front of me. I don't know what it all is. I forget. I couldn't tell you what my monitor is. What's the difference between this monitor here, that monitor, this one, the one on the floor over there? I've got one on the floor in my living room. I couldn't tell you the difference between those monitors. I don't know. The only reason I know what brand of like mouse and keyboard I have is because it's written on the dadgum thing. Like, I can pick it up and go, oh yeah, this is a Rocat Cone. Like, I don't have my stats memorized. Just say you're rich and move on. This is 8 years of content creation, amassing tech, and I'm not a tech guy. I'm not a tech guy, so I don't know. I'm like, is that strong? Is that strong? I don't know. Is that Intel Core i9 9900K? Is that a good CPU? I genuinely don't know. I'm not trying to be that guy that's like, we used to have guys that would come in and they would do that. They're like, my PC is, and they would rattle off some god tier PC. And they went to PC part picker and built the strongest PC they could. And they're like, is that a strong PC? I'm totally not trying to do that. In the most genuine way, I don't know if that's a really strong CPU or not. It's not strong or impressive. Humble bragging. I'm not trying to humble brag. I genuinely want to know. I'm asking for help. That's the rig that I would play Starfield on. New high score. Is that bad? Right? Like, that's all I'm saying. That CPU is like one of the best, I believe. 2080 is not that strong. No, I know my GPU is not that strong. But people seem to be indicating, oh, the term is humble bragging. I was like, I am totally not trying to be that guy. Somebody literally asked me what my CPU was. The only reason we're zeroing in on the CPU instead of the GPU, because I know my 2080 Ti is not that strong anymore. It's certainly not weak, but it's not front of the wave. I know that. I'm in the middle. I'm above the middle of the pack on power, like slightly above the middle of the pack on power. I know that GPU-wise. But Linneman and others seem to think that this is going to be more of a CPU-intensive problem. So we're looking at my i9 9900K. You know, how much stronger is that CPU than the one inside the Series X? Genuinely, I don't know. I don't have a grasp on that. Just this morning, I was looking up benchmark comparisons between the 2070 Super and the 2080. Because I'm not up on that stuff. I'm totally not. I've never postured to be the guy that can tell you about a teraflop or an overclock setting or any of that. That's not my world. I personally don't like that kind of stuff. I would just rather buy it, plug it in, push the on button, and I just hope everything works. The Xbox Series X has an i7 CPU equivalent. Okay. Sell your kidney and get a 4090. Middle of the pack for GPUs is 1660 according to the Steam hardware survey. I was thinking more in the realm of power techno, right? I'm a little bit above the middle of the pack in terms of power, am I not? I don't know. I don't know how strong these cards are now. It's not something I pay any attention to. Your CPU is about on par with a 5600, which is about what's in the console, says Zubair. Lona, the CPU that you have is an 8-core, 16-threaded processor that boosts up to 5 when not thermal limited or with overclocking. So in terms of CPU, you're good. Starfield plays at 0 FPS on the PS5. I don't care about that. I have a Series X and multiple gaming rigs. That's not a concern that I have. Maybe one system peasants are concerned about that. I'm not. I don't believe that, by the way. I should just start feeding these grifting losers on Twitter just really, really bad clips on purpose. I mean, guys, listen. The fact of the matter is the Xbox Series X literally doesn't have any first-party titles. Forza, not first party. Halo, not first party. Microsoft Flight Sim, I mean, I know Microsoft's in the name, but it's not first party either. They don't have any first party titles. Clip that, you grifting parasites. Clip it. Oh, golly. Oh no. Whatever will I do? More people are seeing my content. The horror. TJ Rage with a $10 tip. If Starfield's confirmed for 60 on PC, no, they didn't say that. I thought they said it was built for Series X, or do I misremember that? Oh, you're really stretching my memory, TJ Rage. There was an interview. Did Todd said something about building for Xbox first or something? I can't remember what he said exactly. I don't want to misspeak. He said something to that effect, did they not? We start with Xbox. I think it was in the context of like going exclusive or something. I can't remember what he said. I swear it was something along those lines. Shout out to the one console peasants. Let's see. Todd Howard, we start with Xbox. It was something like that, wasn't it? News articles. See, the problem is now all I'm going to get is all these performance articles. It's going to be really hard to find the article now. Because every article I'm finding is about 30 FPS, 30 FPS, 30 FPS, 30 FPS. I'd have to find a way to like sort by relevancy. Recent archives. Will that show me older stuff? Not coming to PS5s means more focus. It was in an interview like that. He was talking about it, and he said something along the lines of starting with Xbox. I can't remember the quote. You don't ever want to leave people out, he says. I'll just say I want everybody to have the ability to play it in some fashion. That's not it. That's not the article. I can't remember. I'm sorry. Come on, you can misspeak. More publicity. Thank you, William Lewis, for the $2 tip. I bet you would call Spider-Man first party, since Flight Sim is an Xbox first party. Listen, the best thing to do when something like that happens is just lean into it. Like, just laugh at it. Like, yeah, man. Ha ha ha. Halo's not first party. Can you believe this guy? He doesn't think Halo's first party. Yeah, man. God of War is not first party. 2% of Steam users have a 3060 or higher. A $5 tip from K. Cole. My one console peasant feelings are hurt. I hope they clip all of your misspeaks. You evil marketing genius. You misspoke on purpose. You know what's frustrating, Donnie? You know what's really frustrating? I was super, super careful in the opening monologue because I knew, I was like, they will be out in force today. They're going to look for any misstep, any misspeak. If I accidentally misquote somebody, they're going to be ready. They're like, this guy is just 30 FPS. 30 FPS is fine. It's fine. I don't think it's a big deal. Like, they're ready. I knew they were going to get me. I was like, I'm going to say something wrong, and they're going to get me. And of course, what better than to say, Halo's not first party? You can't get any better than that. Oh. 45 FPS sucked because it can't be synced to a 60, 120, 40 is the way. Hi-Fi Rush is next-gen only. It's not cross-gen. Yeah, but we wouldn't call Hi-Fi Rush a next-gen game. There's no next-gen graphics there. Right? Like let me give you an example. If you take a game in that art style, you make it as good as possible, okay? And you hit really great frames per second, and you get really, really great load times, okay? Is it next gen in the conversation of, is it displaying the power of the Series X? Like a cel-shaded cartoony game? Like, is that really showing off the power of the Series X? If I ask you to take your Series X and put it toe-to-toe with the best next gen offering that I have on my PS5, like let's have a boxing match between these titles, and I throw out, I don't know, God of War Ragnarok, or I throw out Horizon Forbidden West. Are you going to put Hi-Fi Rush in the ring and say, "Yep, this is next gen. This shows off the power of the Series X"? Do you see the point that I'm making? Like you could technically be like, well, it's next gen because of the performance thresholds it hits, but it's not next gen. It's not showing off the power of the Series X. Like, is that really the banner that you want to wave? What first-party next-gen titles really show off the power of the Series X? Forza and Hi-Fi Rush. Okay. What about the rest? What about the rest? Would you let PlayStation do that? Can PlayStation walk out with a game like Sackboy and say that that's next-gen? Would you table that and say, oh yeah, that's a great display of next-gen power? If they walked out with a platformer and said, here's Sackboy. The PlayStation 5 has one 8K game. Have you looked at it? It's like a super silly cartoony game. Can I walk that out and say, look at this? The PlayStation 5 is the only console in existence to have an 8K game. You would laugh at me, and I would deserve to be laughed at. That's silly. Forza's cross-gen as well. Well, I think Forza shows off the power of the Series X. That's the point that I'm making. Hey, Sackboy's chill AF. I don't have a problem with Sackboy. Sackboy's catching strays. I don't have a problem with Sackboy. What I'm saying is you know the point that I'm making. Don't be pedantic. That you're not arguing in good faith because you understand the point that I'm making. I own a Series X, and I was promised amazing next-gen performance. And when I say, where's the first-party next-gen performance, and you got to run to Forza, which at this point is ancient in video game land, and then you got Hi-Fi Rush. Homie, you ain't really selling me on this box. Imagine for a second that you're on the side of the road and you've got a Series X that you're trying to sell to somebody, and he says to you, I've got a huge 4K television and I saw all the marketing for this thing. How many games right now really show off this thing's power? What would you say as a salesman? How would you get this guy to buy this box? Because that's me. I'm that consumer. I bought the box for frames, resolution, no load time. Man, I want that. That's what sold me on it. And if you're trying to sell somebody that wants those things, what would you say? Oh, we got Forza. Can I see it? Yeah, sure. And you show them Forza. That looks pretty good. I don't really like racing games, though. What else you got? Hi-Fi Rush? You gonna show him Redfall? You gonna show him Starfield at 30? I don't think so. That's the point I was making. I just misspoke and said Halo's not first party. I was trying to say Halo's not next gen. So we're trying to get at the fact of, like, is the Series X capable of 60 FPS? Because you have one next gen title hitting 60 FPS and high graphical fidelity in Forza. You have another first-party next-gen title hitting next-gen performance, but it's not a high-fidelity game in Hi-Fi Rush. And then you have Halo Infinite hitting 60 FPS, but it's not a next-gen game. That's the point that I was making. Is this box really capable of what they said it's capable of? You really purchase a console for performance? When that's what I'm promised, yes. I purchased a PlayStation 5 for performance. You know what's incredible? I got it. I actually bought the Series X first. I've always traditionally been a bigger Xbox guy. I bought the Xbox Series X first. And I thought, you told me 4K. You told me up to 120 frames per second. You told me instantaneous load times. That's selling me on performance. Do you know how marketing works? How many 4K native games has PS5 got going at 60? That's a wonderful red herring and dodge. That's really impressive. In argumentation, they call that a dodge. You really bought a console on performance? And I outline all the marketing. Yeah, they sold me on performance. Well, but how many 4K native games do you have on your PS5 there, buddy? That's not the flow of the conversation. The flow of the conversation is, you acted as if I was irrational for buying a console for performance. That's quite literally how they were marketed. You can't market something on performance and then jeer at somebody. Oh, and yeah, you think Starfield's native 4K? How many native 4K games do you have on the Series X? How many? I'm having a hard time hearing you say none. Native 4K is not a thing, bro. That's why I think focusing on 4K is stupid. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. I think focusing on 4K is stupid. I think this happened last time. The TVs set their sights on a buzzword, 4K. And everyone's like, 4K. And then the games are like, 4K. And it's like, is it 4K though? Is it? You should have focused on what I've always said, 144060. I've continued to say that I think that's a sweet spot. 144060. It looks good. It feels good. It's a nice, happy medium, right? But 4K is a great marketing point. 4K, 4K, 4K. Okay, fine. And then it's like, this game's 4K. You sure about that? You sure about that? Is it? The native 4K games are racers? Wait, I thought the last time we looked into this, even Gran Turismo and Forza were both upscaling to get to 4K. It wasn't native. Are those games actually running native 4K? I swear to you, the last time we looked into this, you guys were like, Lono, nothing's native 4K. Nothing is native 4K. Because I was like, wait, I thought those games were. And I thought people told me that they weren't. Some Last Gen games have been updated to native 4K as well. No, who cares about that? I don't care about Last Gen games getting updated to native 4K. I don't care about that. That's not why I bought these boxes. Is 30 FPS that bad? Coming from a guy with a PS5 doesn't intend to play Starfield? Oh gosh, yes. Do me a favor. Cambino Primo, what's a game you're playing the most on your PlayStation 5? What's a game that you're playing right now? And the other question is, are you playing it on performance mode? Are you playing it at 60 FPS? Just any game you're playing on your PS5, number one, what game is it? And did you set it to performance? I'm genuinely curious. It's so stupid to argue FPS in a scope of a game like Starfield. Where was that energy with Zelda? Nowhere, just Xbox hate. Yes, because Zelda runs on a cell phone, basically. That's comparable to the Series X. I can't believe people keep typing that and thinking it's a good point. It's shocking how many people think that that's a good point. You don't see it, but it's an own goal. You're turning around and kicking the ball into your own goal and be like, that's right. I told that pony, you didn't care about Zelda, did you? You just kicked the ball into your own net. You just compared Starfield on the Series X to the power of a cell phone. I've recently been playing Spider-Man Remastered, and I think it's on, I think you meant to say performance. Okay. Cambino Primo. I want you to sit down and for 30 minutes or so, play Spider-Man on performance. And then I want you to switch. I want you to switch it to quality. And tell me it doesn't look choppy and blurry. Because it will. It will. Once you're used to... I loved Tears of the Kingdom because I hadn't been playing other games. I helped my son out a little bit with Kena Bridge of Spirits. I helped my daughter out a little bit with Stray. I tried to go back to Zelda, and I couldn't do it. I was like, I'm telling you, Zelda was tolerable because I hadn't been playing very many games. We were kind of coming out of a gaming drought, and it was like, okay, this isn't so bad. And then I played a couple of games at 60, or I would look over to the right, and I would see my wife playing Hogwarts at 60, and I was like, So you know what I did? I stopped playing. I stopped playing. I was like, you know what? I'm going to wait. I'm hoping someday in the distant future I can I can play this on a Switch 2 and get 60. It genuinely bothers me. Like, I'm not being inconsistent. Like, I was making an exception. For Zelda because I absolutely love it. It's Nintendo. I haven't been playing very many games. And then I started touching other games at 60, and I was like, oh my gosh. It's painful to go back. It genuinely hurts. I could play Miles at 30 for more than... I couldn't play Miles at 30 for more than 2 minutes. Hi-Fi Rush is next gen only. Hi-Fi Rush is next gen only. Okay. Since you own a Switch and the game, have you considered emulation? I just don't like messing with that. Spider-Man, really? It's not the same game size. Even No Man's Sky goes 50 on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox because it loads a full planet. The same with Starfield, it loads the entire planet for you to explore. Hi and L, I don't know if they've confirmed that when you land on a planet, if it loads the whole planet. Digital Foundry analysis shows Gran Turismo 7 is native 4K. Really? What about Forza? How are they doing that? That seems insane. The point being, though, that 4K native isn't standard. That's the point we're making. We can't get distracted by, well, you said no games are native and Gran Turismo and Forza are. The point that we're making is virtually every game that touts 4K is not native 4K. That's not the expectation. That if sure, okay, we have 2 games that are native 4K. That's not the expectation in the market. When Ratchet and Clank says 4K, I know I'm not getting native 4K. I just know I'm not. I actually think they said it does not load the whole planet, but it generates as you go. Yeah, didn't they say that? That, like, you would have a different experience than me, even if we found the exact same planet? Techno says, I emulated Tears of the Kingdom, and the emulators can't do much higher than 30 FPS right now. Optimization and all that. TJ Rage with a $5 Super Chat tip. Wouldn't it be funny if this was in the grand scheme to get us all to upgrade our PCs, they could hold us out till the mid-gen upgrades arrive? I don't think this has anything to do with it. As you approach the planet, it's generated. Okay. We need to give these developers a break coming out of the sickie. What do you mean give them a break? What do you mean? Guys, we haven't missed this member goal since November of last year. I got to get the next video ready, though. I've got to get it ready. Give me a second here. I'm going to need... I don't have the thumbnail yet for Members Creature. And I've got a great video on Avowed. You guys aren't going to want to miss this one. You guys are not going to want to miss this one. I react to Maddie Plays video on Avowed. I don't agree with his take on Avowed. There's a lot of different viewpoints on Avowed and what happened with the graphical fidelity. I think it's a graphical downgrade. Maddie's position is quite different than mine, so I interact with his video. Starfield's been in development for 8 years. What do you mean a break? Yeah, it's been in development for 8 years, and yet they somehow surpassed the power of the Series X, as well as hardware that wasn't in existence when they started developing the game. But there you go. Patrick Q says, come on, let's hit the goal. That takes us to 14. We're one away from the layup at 15. It goes to Big T. Roll up. I sent it Monday. I don't see one for Avowed. Oh, we just gonna do it off of today? Starfield at 30? Yeah, I guess that's fine. I'll just use that one. Split screen. There it is. DK Bager with the layup, and Seymour Butts slams it home. 15 and then 10 for 25. I now owe you guys 5, but Po Buddy's Nerfic is going to say, you know what? Let's be the agent of chaos. 26, which means the next goal is 50. Every 25, I get 5. You guys have already got the first one. We are going to go over to this premiere in 10 minutes. You guys have 10 minutes if you want to keep going. Predator says, I want to keep going, and he bumps the membership line to 27. Thank you guys so much. We can start going a little bit harder maybe at the end of these streams so that the talk show doesn't get disrupted. Lately, you guys go so crazy. It's like sometimes we don't even get to have a talk show. I'm not complaining. It's incredible. Starfield, 30 FPS, debrief. That's fine. Starfield, 30 FPS debrief, change. Oh. Let's put this at 12:45. Slightly longer video. Customization. Redirect. Current full list of Lono's hate list. All birds, all trees, the Dutch, weird spellings done for marketing purposes, Halo Infinite running on the Series S, Stunlock trash, scripted fails, when you don't actually beat the boss and they run away, announcements or teaser trailers that don't show you anything, Transylvanian spiders, Transylvania, Call of Duty SMG meta, ladders, maybe lemon desserts, burrito bowls with a fork, Forbes, Chris Pratt. I actually really like Chris Pratt. I actually do. I think Chris Pratt, I think people are mean needlessly to that man. Leave that man alone. Seeing dual wielding made me happy. Yeah, they looked pretty hot. The dual wielding looked pretty hot. Seeing some guns in Avowed looked pretty cool. I thought it looked pretty cool. All right, I'm going to set Avowed for... Set as a premiere today. I'm going to set it for 12:15, which is very shortly from now. I will gift the members that I owe you guys. I will gift them over there. It gives you guys the maximum amount of time to hit the member goal. Okay. Let me make sure this is the front video on the channel. If you guys weren't paying attention, the discussion surrounding Avowed is about how much it changed graphically from the first time they showed it to now. And Maddie Plays had a video, and I reacted to that video. So I think you guys will enjoy it. I go for dialogue-driven reaction, so I like to try to kind of have a conversation with the video. So, yeah, and doing math while streaming. I'm terrible at that. I misspeak all the time. I really, really do. Like, if I'm going to get grifted on for misspeaking, I don't care. Like, you truly, truly help the content. Like, if that clip shows up in other videos on YouTube... Right? You know, I don't expect them to be classy and like link to the channel or the video, right? I don't think bottom feeders know what that is. But, you know, makes me relevant. It doesn't bother me at all. I don't know how many videos I've appeared in the last couple weeks. People kept coming to me and telling me, and I said, "Hey, stop telling me this. I don't care." Oh, there's new ABR merch. Ooh, that is really, really nice. And Rescue and Restore is my favorite album by them. Ooh, Must Resist. Must Resist. Oh, is that a zip up? Oh, that might be a zip up hoodie. Is it? Oh, they're windbreakers. Never mind. Not really a windbreaker kind of guy. I ordered a Zelda homage shirt from them. Looking forward to getting that. Yo, what's good, Whiskey Neat? Good morning, Khaled. How are you? It was so funny. I heard it live and I thought, wait, what? I took a second to think critically and I knew it was a misspeak. You know what's funny, Chris? I'll re-listen to some of my shows sometimes, like looking for clips for, you know, Twitter or shorts or whatever. And I'll misspeak all the time and people won't even notice it. I don't even remember what I said the other day. I said something the other day... And I literally pulled up the chat and I was like, did anybody nail me for that? And like, nobody caught it. Nobody caught it. Like, I misspeak all of the time. I really do. It's the nature of folks that communicate in the manner that I do, like speaking extemporaneously and very quickly. It's just going to happen. You're just going to grab the wrong word and say the wrong thing. Like, it happens all the time. I'm not shaken by that. You're not surprising me. It's like breaking news. Lono misspeaks sometimes. Like, yeah, I already knew that. I already knew that. Barbecue is lit. The heat here in Scotland. Whew. Yeah, we're about to have a heat wave here too, Donnie. Literally the joke of calling me Loney. I did that. I went to say Lono is such a Sony pony and I accidentally said Loney. Like, that meme is literally because I misspeak all the time. I notice it sometimes, but you think and talk fast, so you're already on to the next thing. Rescue and Restore, it's all about Leveler. Yeah. Rescue and Restore kind of speaks to me, though. Why do you hate Xbox so much? I don't hate Xbox. I gave the Xbox Showcase high marks. I highlighted 11 things that were good about it. I said that I felt like Starfield Direct was the single greatest single game showcase I've ever seen. I was really looking forward to Starfield until the 30 FPS stuff hit. I don't hate Xbox at all. I don't. Like, I genuinely think the problem is it's a lack of nuance and thought. Also, just dishonest people on Twitter. They're just smear merchants, right? They're like, well, this guy just went on a rant about how, you know, the Xbox Showcase was amazing. It was better than PlayStation's. He really liked it. But then they'll grab like one thing that I say and say, look, see, he just hates Xbox. Today's stream, Starfield 30 FPS. I wasn't bashing. I wasn't being hateful. I was merely asking questions. How many first-party, next-gen games are hitting 60 FPS on the Series X? I misspoke, and, grifters grift, and they grab the clip, say, oh, this guy accidentally said that Halo's not first-party. What an idiot. Like, it's the world we live in, brother. It's the world of misinformation. The same people trying to take me to task for that misspeak are the same people who lied to the public about Redfall, misled the public about Redfall, misrepresented their own coverage about Redfall, just straight-faced lied to the public. The same people that said Starfield was going to have a performance mode. The same people that looked at the announcement trailer in March about the release date of Starfield and said, look, Starfield's at 60 FPS. Those same dishonest people are the people taking me to task for this. So I don't really care. When your character and your integrity is quite literally in the toilet and under the ground, you don't get to judge me about anything, really, especially a simple misspeak. It was a simple mistake. So, if you want to throw dog crap at my shins, you're down there in the mud, bro. I don't do that. It was a simple mistake. How are you, a Sony pony, Sony hater, Xbox hater, and Xbox loyalist all at the same time? It's a true talent. Yeah, whenever I said that I didn't think I was going to enjoy Final Fantasy XVI's combat, I got attacked by Sony fans. I literally made a tweet and I was like, I don't think I'm going to like this. I don't think it's a little too Devil May Cry, a little too JRPG for me. And I got shredded by some Sony fans. I was like, gee, mini Christmas. They thought that I got called an X-bot when I said that. You just don't play it then, X-bot. I'm like, what? You're just mad because you can't play it, X-bot. What? Huh? It's just the nature of that world, man. It's just the nature of that world. They live in that fight every day. That's why I had to just start blocking folks. Because I'm not on that wavelength. I'm not in that fight. Right? All right. There's a link in chat. If you didn't see the Avowed reveal during the Xbox Game Showcase, I talked about it. I said it was a significant graphical degradation, even though the game looks fun, and I actually think it's going to be a great game. I want to play it. I do think there was a pretty big graphical degradation. Maddie Plays has a different opinion, and I'm going to send you to that video now. There's a link in chat. Do me a favor when you get over there, smash the like button, right? Get over there and smash that like button like there's no tomorrow. It really, really helps out, right? And I'll see you over there in the chat. I've got some members to gift, and then if you're a member, you get to debrief. I'll see you over there.